with allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Marty?
Amy Black here. Michaela Conlon here. Casey Weiss.
Present.
Jeanette Simonson.
Yes.
Nick Helsted.
Here.
Iftikhar Memon.
Here.
Brad Doss.
Here, thank you. And has this meeting been properly noticed?
Yes, it has.
Thank you. All right, next we have public comment. We have one, Jan Rousey.
Where do I go?
Jamie?
Yep.
Patrick?
Good? Okay. All right, next, since we have, policies that are of interest, and we have, some guests here tonight, I move items, and I have to find them here, 9.3, our policy committee report, and 8.4, our 4K programming, to be the next items on the agenda.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so let's start right away with the policy committee, since Jan is here.
Any one of you are welcome to summarize or?
Yeah, so the meeting, the policies are all in your packet, right? This is first reading. I know we've got some board members that are new to the policy committee process. So we always have a first and second reading on anything that comes forward. So it comes forward from the policy subcommittee, as you guys know, right, made up of board members, community members, and staff members. And then we never take action on any policies on their first reading. We have the ability to send them back for revision, to provide commentary, and then after the first reading, right, Shelley takes them back and cleans up all the formatting, puts them in final format, final verbiage, any of that stuff, and then we approve that. The only real discussion other than these was on the school forest. So there's been a lot of learning about the school forest in the past, I guess it's been almost a month now. So we do not own it. It is owned in quarter shares by Alma,
Adams?
Adams, Albion, Brockway, and the city of Black River Falls. So we do not have legal ownership over that. There was a deed in 67, and there's an MOU from 1974.
Resolutions by each one of those municipalities, they passed resolutions granting the district permission to use that property for educational purposes, was what their resolution said.
So what the subcommittee asked Shelley to do is to reach out to all of those municipalities and talk about what we have out there for signage now, and see what their thoughts are. If we would want to change the signage, or if we want the signage to remain the same, they would have to all agree to do so. If they want to change something in the signage, they could do that. Yeah, that's really, we are at the behest of those four municipalities at this point.
And so, just to be clear, the policy was updated last in 2014, and honestly, that was when there were lots of conversations about guns in schools. And the board at that point, policy committee, took this policy, and there was lots of updates that needed to happen. I remember Todd Stittelberg was on the board at the time, and the board intentionally asked him to be a part of this just because outdoors is definitely his area of expertise. And there was lots of conversation at that time about different student groups use that forest on and off different times, and there are certainly times that we go out there that there would be no way of knowing if there was somebody hunting on a portion of that land or not. It is not completely fenced in. It is, there's a gate at the entry point where that sign is posted that Jan shared with you. So Jan's absolutely right. When he made me aware of the problem, I called our attorney and they said, yep, you don't own it and you don't get to make those rules. So honestly, it was well-intentioned people in 2014 trying to make sure kids were safe. And so now we know differently. And so I reached out to the city already, and Brad Chown said they would absolutely take up that resolution. It would take a resolution by each of the four owners, and if any one of the four don't agree, then it would be over. So each one of those different municipalities would all have to agree. So that was the recommendation from the policy committee, that I reach out to each of those municipalities. Any further questions or?
So again, for the new board members, we do not need to take action on these tonight. It would be outside of the normal for us to take action tonight. They are first reading. they're there for your comment. There's no need for action on those. Those will be before the board again in July.
So what you're saying is that four municipalities would have to approve it staying the way it is.
Yes, they would have to say that they did not want guns on that legal description parcel of land, pardon me. And I haven't even asked the other municipalities yet.
Sure. I guess the only thing when I read the deed and it said that whoever gifted the land to the city, it said that they didn't want hunting to be interfered with, so I mean.
In 1967, they sure did not.
They did, which I mean, you gotta respect them, they donated the land to the cities for educational use, but they wanted hunting to be able to happen on it, so I mean, I guess I kind of respect their wishes, you know?
Yeah, and the municipalities still own it, you know, so that's,
Right.
they can, that's
Right.
that little bit out of our, I mean, I completely agree, that was the wishes that when it was first, I don't say donated, held for our benefit.
Yep. And
What kind of risks do we have if we were to say we're gonna take the sign down right now until we petition the four owners and see what they're,
Summer is ideal, because we certainly won't have classes going on.
I
in
guess
the
that's what
summer.
I'm getting at, like right now, if we were to say, look, we know legally we shouldn't have the sign up, you know, and what is posted on the sign, we can't really make those statements. We could ask people, we could say, please don't, but we can't tell them you can't, you know. So, if we were to maybe bring it to a vote on whether or not we should take the sign down temporarily until we have consensus from those four landowners, if they all come back and say, hey, it's fine the way that the school had it posted originally, we're all okay with that, and then we put the sign back up before the school starts in the fall. So,
That sounds like you're making a motion, Casey.
yeah, I guess
I'll second it.
I'd make a motion for us to remove the sign in the plans of, I guess, talking to the different owners to see if they're okay with the way it was worded.
Okay.
And get some consensus from them.
They're not using it, that's part of the summer?
No.
There's no students.
No, I don't think there's any summer school at the school forest. Anyone? No.
Not usually.
I guess the concern would be is whether or not the four landowners can make a decision timely enough for us before school starts or before we start to send kids back into that space. It'd be nice if that could happen at least for us,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, hopefully in the next 2 months we can get resolution on this. And then there is likely some sort of signage going back up, but we don't know what that looks like right now.
has there ever been an issue in the last 60 years?
There have been some hunting stands erected on it that we've removed because they are hazardous when you have groups of kids out there because we don't know how they were built or any of those things. So some people, that's one of the things on the sign was that they could not leave any stands overnight. So
It's meant to be temporary.
right, yeah.
Shelley, I would add that we have had people walk through going hunting when we had students on the property. Kind of an uncomfortable thing for teachers and students. So that has happened.
Okay, thank you.
So if the next municipalities or the cities decide that they would like to forego the consent rules, is that going to be another conversation that we have if we've taken those down?
I think policy committee is gonna have to figure out what you want to do, whether we put some boundaries on when the school forest is used, whether we look at hunting seasons and figure something out. I do think it would go back to policy committee for more discussion, would be my recommendation.
Is it something that we as a board would, or district would consider getting the deed in the district's name by purchasing or by some form, whether it's just, donated?
Yeah.
So that's,
Something else to consider. If I may, Dan was the school forest coordinator for a while, so if I may ask Dan, do you believe any of those, my perception is that those municipalities are hands off on that land because they act as if it's ours, even though legally it is not. Is that a fair assessment, or do you think that they still utilize portions of the land?
I would say that's a fair statement.
Okay. So that means
Occasionally
they
the-
would be willing to do that.
Jackson County's forestry department uses the property to drive through to get to the moss beds in the back.
Sure.
But they call, they have a key, and they're, cooperative with our groups to go out there. If we ever go out, they say what days you're gonna be there, what times, we will not go through there at that time.
And if you read the rest of the sign, that was part of it, that we just wanted people to notify us if they were gonna be out there hunting so that we could know. So, good point. I will add that to the conversation with the municipalities.
All right, so we have a motion and a second before the board, again, talking about removing the sign until we have, oh, I'm sorry, Michaela second.
I
Oh,
second
you're
you,
second.
because there's no kids on the property between now and September. There's kids, that's a different story.
All right, so further discussion on that motion? All right, so all those in favor of removing the sign?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries, thank you. Any further discussion on any of the policies? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close that item. Next up is 8.4, the 4K programming. So we, due to a number of reasons, have the ability to go to full day, 4-day, 4K programming, and we have, I'm assuming that's why the two of you are here?
So I'll launch it if I can, and then certainly invite them to discuss if they would like. So at our last board meeting, somebody asked about 4K programming, and we had a semi-large amount of conversation about why we have the limited programming we do. On top of that, we also looked at the open enroll out, and there was a lot of families that were choosing to open enroll their children out of Black River Falls 4K and into our neighboring districts who all have full day 4K programming. And so the open enrollment conversation linked with the daycare conversation, linked with 4K programming, linked with early childhood education, all those things together. And Melanie Cassidy and Amy Abley have both been 4K teachers in the district, a dynamic duo, I would say, at the youngest level. And they wanted to talk more about it after the last board meeting. So I usually tease people when they tell me that they stood up and watched the board meetings. In this case, it was fantastic that she watched the board meeting because it led to the next conversation where we went and we talked, and the incoming enrollment of 4K kindergarten this year is a smaller number than we've had in the past. On top of that, we have continued declining enrollment, which means there's classroom spaces at Forestry that are also available, open, that we could use. And we just talked about what would it really cost us to make it all day 4K. So what that really means is right now, if anyone is not familiar with our current programming, we invite families in for half day. They're either the AM section or the PM section. And we do a lot of busing midday to drop off the first group and pick up the second group. And the kids are there for a half a day. What we are proposing is that it would be a full school day and it would be 4 days a week. The reason that it would be 4 days and not 5 days is a couple different factors, but the first one, 4K programming per state requires an awful lot of parent outreach, an awful lot of family outreach. And so if they had kids 4 full days, there's no way they would be able to meet those family outreach expectations. Second, they do an awful lot of significant theme-based programming. And so without the time for them to tear down from this week and reset up the next week, they would really be struggling. In addition, Music, Art, and Fayed currently do not serve 4-year-old kindergarten classrooms because the kids are there such a short amount of the day. We don't send them out to specials during the day. And so when I met with them, I said, would you rather have Music, Art, and Fayed and go 5 days a week so that your prep time is sprinkled like that, or would you rather do 4 full days, not have Music, Art, and PE, and then still have your Friday for outreach and for resetting? And they agreed very quickly they would prefer the 4 days, full days, and then Fridays would still be set aside for family outreach and for planning and programming, all of those things. I said to them, that's really intriguing. I have to wait till Jill gets back because I don't make promises unless I talk to Jill. And so we started doing some calculations, and there's a couple different factors at play. Right now, we only claim 0.5 FTEs for every 4K student we serve, so 0.5. The state will only reimburse for 0.6 of 4K. So at the very least, we would get another 1/10 of a person for every one of our 4K kids that we have. We also believe these two ambassadors for early childhood education are really well connected in the 4K world and in the MOPS group and all of those things in our community. They have agreed that they would call all those people that were open enrolling out and personally invite them, tell them that we're going to have full day programming and invite them to come back. Even if we recapture 5 of those open enroll out kids, that's significant. And we also know that most people who open enroll out at that youngest level, because it happens when they open enroll here for 4K, they end up staying all the way through. So if these families go someplace else for full day 4K, chances of us getting them back here are really pretty slim because they're gonna have their childcare figured out and their transportation, all of that stuff. So I think we would financially gain from open enrollment. We would get some of those families back as opposed to them leaving. In addition, we talked about those 3 days, August 27, 28, 29, that are counting as summer school days. We are going to generate more state aid by increasing our enrollment through those days. That will help to pad the cost to enable us to hire a full-time teacher for this coming year. This year, enrollment is lower, and so it's a great year to step into that. And so our enrollment moving forward is based off of a 3-year rolling average. So if we increase our FTEs this year by having more kids come, that helps us the next year, right? It all just keeps rolling forward, if you will. So when we looked at the cost, we really believe with those summer school days, some students coming back through open enrollment, choosing to stay, not go out, and getting to claim the 0.6 FTE for all of our students, we believe it would be a financial gain for us to move to the all-day 4K programming. This board still has to make a decision about daycare programming. That is going to be another significant piece of the open enrollment story because, again, some districts do the all-day 4K and they have wraparound daycare. We're not ready for all of that yet, but I think this is one step in providing educational services to our families that live in our community. So Jill's going to talk about it when we get to the budget. She's going to show you that it already fits into the budget, but I wanted this on as a separate action item, and I'm going to acknowledge, I always say to the board, I very seldom ask you to take action on something before you've had a chance to, like I introduce it once and then give you some time and then ask you to take action. My fear in waiting too long for this is those families are making plans to go elsewhere. Right now, parents of 4K kids are making childcare plans around their half-day slot that they already know they have. Christy is doing routing, like all of these things are happening, and candidate pool, like all of those pieces. So I think it would be detrimental to wait till close to the end of July to be able to make that change. So that's what I wanted to share. I would love to take questions, and these ladies would certainly be willing to answer any questions or share thoughts as well.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
So currently, are we doing a 4-day or 5-day?
We do 4 days, half days.
Okay. And then, what are our neighboring districts do? Is it 4 or 5 days?
One of them, Alma Center does 4 days, but they have Mondays off instead of Fridays. And Blair Taylor, I don't know what their model looks like.
I think Blair Taylor is 4 days.
4 days as well.
But Melman is going to 5 full days.
Okay, Melman is going to 5 full days. And they have surround care in Melman as well, so.
Surround care?
Meaning they have a school-sponsored daycare. The school is operating a daycare, not funding it, they're operating a daycare, which means, so if you are a parent of a 4K kid and you have to be to work at 7, you can drop your kid off at 6:45 and the school will do daycare until it's time to start the school day. So we're not asking about daycare right now, asking about the 4-day full. So that was question 1. You said you had 2.
Plus 2, what we're currently doing and what other people are doing.
Okay.
What is our number for enrolling out? Do we know?
Last month we had it up here. I think it was like 29. I mean,
Okay,
it was
yeah.
pretty high. I can look back in my notes, but it was high. I remember we all were sad when we looked at it.
What's
Yeah.
our current 4K registration number?
I'm gonna lean on Melanie or the ladies.
I'm 45.
About 55 total, I think.
And we were almost at 100 this year, is that correct? In the 90s?
About 90 between
Yeah.
onsite and offsite.
Okay.
Away from, yeah.
That's a pretty high percentage.
It's offset like homeschool, but
No, it's, we offer We
And then it
partner
starts.
with Ho-Chungra and Western Dairyland.
Oh, sure.
Amy and Melody, do you have anything without questions you would like to just add?
Jeanette, 18. I just counted up, it was 18.
Thank you.
Well, you know, we've talked a lot about this, and I've done full day programming before. The year of 2021. When we were masking. So I've done full day programming before. So I feel like we can come up with a great schedule that will fit their needs. I did talk with Shelley that I think that most, the kids that are in daycare full days now, that have working parents that work full days, I don't think this schedule would be too hard on them. I think for kids that are used to being at home, this may be a big adjustment for them. So I did say, you know, what if we have a situation where we have a family that's like, I still just want the half days because I'm at home and I think it's too long a day for them. And Shelley had thought maybe we could have some conversations around that. That's my only concern, is that there'll be some kids that aren't used to a whole day outside of the home, that would be hard for them. But I think the majority of our kids, when we survey them, the majority are going to some program all day long. So I don't think it'd be that big of an adjustment for those children. That was my kind of only concern for the full days.
All right, thank you.
And I don't know if it needs to be noted, but if we do full day 4K, we would integrate a nap time for our friends.
For the teachers?
Yes.
All friends.
Lead by example.
I'll just say, ladies, thanks for coming tonight. I appreciate the fact that you did, like Shelley said, that you watched the meeting and it did spark your interest and that you had the conversations with her about it.
Yeah, I mean,
If there's any other things you'd like to say or try to help persuade us in one way or the other, I mean,
yeah.
the floor is yours.
Amy and I have been talking a lot about it ever since we heard Melvin was going to full days. We thought, oh, there goes our enrollment. I mean, we just knew that families are having a hard time finding childcare. I myself have really struggled over the years trying to find childcare for my children. And so I know that's a big concern for families. And so if we can do something to help without having a negative effect on kids, we would like to do that. We feel this is a good solution.
And we, you know, it's already June, and, you know, if this passes, it starts at the end of August, but we've already been scheduling and coming up with ideas, so we would be definitely ready to get this rolling.
Yeah, so you feel like you can be flexible enough to make it happen this fall already without.
We've been very flexible over
Yeah.
the years.
That is the name of their game. They're quite agile.
So, I mean, 4K is kind of very fluid anyways, because you just don't know what's all coming in the doors, because these kids haven't been around for a while. Amy and I have had last minute to team teach, we've had to share rooms, we've had to be over at Gebhardt. I mean, we've done lots of things, so this to us is plenty of time to plan. So,
One other piece to just be aware of and think about is that when we did full day 4K in 2021, we did it every other day, and one of the academic achievement pieces that was of concern for us for doing 2 full days a week was that the kids didn't have enough regular exposure to the curriculum or to instruction, that it was like Groundhog's Day every time the kids came back to school, and there was a lot of reteaching of things, and so the consistency of having 4 days in a row was really important for them. I know that we've got families in the community that are seeking that consistency for academics as well.
And there's just such good research around early intervention, right? Like, we know the sooner that we get students, the sooner we can be working on those basic things around reading and math that we know our students need from our data when students are coming in.
What would your class sizes be? Have you, I know, I thought I read something.
We have a guarantee, the guarantee expectation is 18-1 at the 4K level.
and I think our class sizes are around 16 if we would take the 2 sections and put them together as of right now. 2 sections would be at, I think, 116, 117, and then the other one is a little bit less. So that would give us room to fill in more kids that we're hoping to pull back in.
And for the rest of the board's information, we haven't talked about this in a couple of years, so I'm not sure that you're aware, but we also send a 4K teacher to Ho-Chungra and San Pillow. We used to do half days at both schools, and then we changed this last year to only serving one of the 2 schools. what our plan would be is that their 4K enrollment was also down, but our plan would be to hire the additional teacher at Forest Street, and we would go back to serving both of the San Pillow and the Mission, and again, we would get to count both of those student populations. And they do Head Start programming, and our 4K kind of pushes into Head Start. So Head Start has all of its rules and regulations as well, and we get enough time there with our teacher to be able to count those students as our FTEs, and they provide Head Start services around that.
What is the numbers on that?
They are really low this year. I believe it was down to like
Well, it's always
less than 10
every-
this year.
Every single year they start out, like at this time of year, there's usually like 3 kids enrolled, but they just trickle in and register over the summer, and they usually end up higher, but I think as a whole district and area, I think all of our numbers are just down a little bit.
I believe last year there was like 13 3-year-olds at the San Pillow site,
Great.
so there's a potential of 13 if they're all returning and registered for 4K at one of the sites.
Is it possible to look at the numbers on that real quick? For,
To determine
Like budgetary
which
or-
part.
yeah, just the budgetary piece of it?
So that, yeah, so let me just,
So then,
Can't.
yeah, so we have some options as a board, right? So we can vote, tonight we can vote yes or no, right? Which would be preferable because then they can start planning, they can start reaching out to those potential open enrollments. We need to communicate as a district with all of next year's 4K parents, right? We also have the ability to table that if anyone feels pressured to vote tonight. If we do table that, I really don't think we can wait until our July meeting. We would probably need to have a special meeting in the next week or two. We would be back here just to make that decision effectively. So I just want to be
one
clear to the
piece that
board.
was important, Shelley said, is that they have built it into the budget.
Okay,
Right.
that's what I was
Yes,
just,
For the
okay, so you
additional
guys
head
have
count,
that.
so it's
That's
yeah,
there, it's
what I thought.
covered, we're not changing anything
Okay.
to the public
Yeah,
in order to make it work for the head count, so.
And I just
I think
wanted to
that's
hear, were you
probably-
asking about the numbers for the Hochungra, or were you talking about the
Just in
numbers for the
general.
4K? Okay,
I-
that is
like,
already in the
sometimes
budget.
We
Yep.
talk about numbers
Yep.
up here, I'm like.
You're gonna be asked to approve a budget shortly, and
That's in there.
the amount
Yep.
for another full-time teacher for 4K is
It's in
already in that.
Then
It is in
then I
there.
would make a motion.
And it's in there, I just want you to know, just for clarity, it's in there, and I've been conservative in the FTEs for 4K, so
Okay.
that's the other piece of it. So if we go from 0.5 to 0.6, that's helpful, so.
Okay. And I'll make a motion
And I'll second the motion.
okay, so again, the
to
motion.
do a full day
to
for
approve
4 days.
4 day, full day, thank you.
Yep.
All right, so motion is second, further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries, thank you.
It's exciting.
Wow. It's exciting.
Honestly, it's just really exciting. Again, I appreciate that you guys invited the conversation.
Yeah, thanks, ladies.
Good stuff happens. While we're talking about Forest Street, can I introduce another
Yep.
stellar young lady that we're excited to join our team? Miss Christina Kirchner is joining us. She's the new Forest Street Elementary principal, and so we'd like to welcome her. Yeah. They clap for you tonight. It'll never happen again. Just kidding.
I'll take
Yes.
it.
So Christina is joining us from the Melrose Medora School District, where she has been a kindergarten teacher for 13 years. So the Forest Street age groups are second nature to her. So we have a large interview committee, and everyone are very excited to welcome her to the team. She's already spent a whole day with the leadership team, right? And she came back, so it's all good. Excellent. Thanks for letting me do that.
All right. Next up, we have our handbooks. So we got one from each building and also our athletic and co-curricular handbooks. So the biggest change in all of these, as we talked about last month, is the cell phone change in the middle school. Dan, do you want to provide any commentary on that, or?
No, I think they said everything I needed to say last time. I'm pretty excited to move forward with it if that's the board's wishes. I think it's gonna help with engagement and overall achievement.
What kind of feedback have you gotten, Dan? I mean, any from?
Not much.
Not much, okay.
Our
Yeah.
conversation's basically only what I've heard.
And what feedback I've heard is it's about time.
Yeah.
So,
We didn't vote on it yet, though.
no, no.
He presented it, okay. I just have a question, Dan. When it comes to Apple Watches or all those other, are those things being taken as well?
Yeah.
Because even though they may not receive phone calls, they still can get messages, they still can play games, they still can do,
And they
Whatever.
get phone calls too.
yeah. I've been asking the techie people how that all works. I didn't know I could talk to my phone for a long time.
Phone calls are never a problem. They don't talk on the phone, they do everything else with it,
Yeah,
right?
I was like, oh, you mean I can answer this thing? I never knew.
Yeah, we started a conversation a couple weeks ago about that, maybe the last week. I wish I had a definite answer for you. I was told that you can tell if it's them checking the time or if they're checking for a message. And then we would just have to, you know, go by our, well, I don't know. I can't
It
answer
was
that
just
question.
something that,
Yeah.
talking to different ones, how they felt, it was brought up about, well, if they're gonna take phones, they need to take the watches because they can do things on there. They can do things and you may think they're checking the time, but, and this came from kids who who graduated. So I'm listening to a younger generation who is saying, this is what you can do and you need to think about.
Sounds like I need to reach out to the younger generation, see if we can figure some stuff out.
It felt like the gap was really just to try to control social media though. Probably
Social
more
media and just being on the phone and engaging in the phone
Yeah.
instead of.
Yeah,
You
so,
can't take pictures
right.
just with your watch
There's no
without their phone.
Snapchat,
Right.
there's no, like, you might be able to read a text message or, yes, somebody could call you, but it's gonna stick out, so.
Step one, right?
The other thing I want to bring up is in the handbooks, in the elementary handbook and in the middle school, I am not clerk,
Oh.
Amy is.
That would be probably my error for sending it out wrong.
Well, the high school is correct.
Oh.
It's just not correct in the
That's it, Tim,
elementary.
next time you're doing my handbook for me.
Nate.
Thanks, bud.
So I think it's due, she's the clerk and not me.
Yep, I like that correction.
Sorry, headshot.
I'm curious, Kim, for the cell phone policy, I mean, has there been any discussion at the level with the faculty at the high school about whether something like that could help?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about it. Right now, we are going to, like, right now it's just been off and away, right? So they can be on their body. So we're switching to making sure they're in the backpacks. So we're gonna try that first and then maybe ease our way into see how it works at the middle school.
Okay, no, I appreciate it.
So,
Thanks.
I do like the fact Dan is, they're taking them in focus hour and not leaving them in the lockers. I think that was really a smart change there, from switching from lockers to the focus hour teacher. So that was great.
I did want to point out just a few things in the extra and co-curricular handbook because those are, when things aren't going well for individual students, those are topics that you will sometimes be brought into. And so I wanted to emphasize that as Mr. Osgard and Kim and Nate went through the booklet, they really did some increasing of expectations regarding grades and when grade checks would happen and how long a student would sit out because of those grades. They also added that they're going to require those students to attend the 1 hour after school tutoring and then they could go to that practice. So I appreciate that they are increasingly growing the expectations for our students that we hold up as leaders that are participating in all the extra and co-curricular activities. There's a no pass list that is added on here, that administrators sometimes put kids on the no pass list because they are in the building, just not in class. That is also going to be a piece that they're held accountable for in sports. So I just wanted to highlight those. Obviously the schools have a ton of information in them. The athletic and co-curricular are the ones that you will likely hear about when somebody is displeased about them.
The other thing I wanted just to clarify, if we can look on page 9 of the handbooks,
Which one?
elementary, because
Okay.
it's in all of them.
Okay.
It's in, like if parents want to file a
The non-discrimination?
a complaint, yeah.
Okay.
So if you look at paragraph, go down to step 1.
Mhm.
Can you just clarify why it would be 45 days, within 45 days of notification of the receipt of the complaint in writing, within 45 days of calendar?
I don't know where that 45 days came from. That is from board policy. So this was ripped right from board policy. I could go back and look for some notes as to why that is there. I will tell you, we don't ever make it take
Well,
that long.
I'm like, okay, if parents are reading this and they're saying 45 days if I wanted, why would it take 45 days for them to notify me or to even discuss things, or, that they received my complaint? So I just was thinking of that and wondering, because I'm
That
like,
is part of board policy.
yeah. So if we can just look at that,
Yeah.
Shelley, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, we probably need to, policy subcommittee probably needs to pick up that full 41.2.
Yeah.
Would it have anything to do with it being, like, if the incident happened just following a board, like, meeting?
I'm not sure, because the board wouldn't be involved in the investigation, and there's 45 days for that. So if somebody were going to, so our grievance policy says if somebody is not pleased with my decision, then it comes to the board. And so that could take time to get a quorum of the board together, not 45 days though. So I'm guessing that is some legal language from somewhere, but I'll look it up.
Thank you.
Anything else but the handbooks? Otherwise, we'll get those all updated on our website with the correction of clerks.
If there's no other commentary on that, looking for a motion to approve in a second.
I make a motion to approve the handbooks and curricular.
I second.
All right, the motion is second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, next up, TCO update. I think the next meeting is this Wednesday, correct?
I don't know that we had one scheduled for this Wednesday. I know we plan to meet like maybe once over the summer, but the subcommittees would meet throughout the summer, so I don't think I have anything too much to add. We did an end of year report in May, and we plan to vote in new officers in August and just continue the work that we've been doing. We had a really successful year one, and we know that it'll be even more successful in year two.
How much engagement do you think you had, Amy, the number of people that participated throughout the year?
For the TCO, we had about 25 to 30-ish people, I would say, at every single meeting, and I think that's huge given that based on what I heard from the past, PTO meetings were garnering maybe 4 to 5 people, and we were averaging at least 25-ish per meeting. And so I feel like engagement went up exponentially, and we kind of figured out what we wanted that to look like. And so we mapped it out, and we finally came to the conclusion that obviously different people have different abilities and interests, and so we kind of created out some committees where people could get involved, and just it worked really, really well for us this year, I think. So I'd say engagement was pretty high. I think so for PTO based on my limited understanding from my past experience.
I think it was, so starting something or changing something is always kind of messy, and so kind of have that like muddy beginning, and I think towards the end it was really fun to watch everybody kind of get into their like groove and figure out like what their strengths were and how to coordinate things, so yeah, well done.
I think it's great. Michaela and I both plan to continue to help in any way that we can to make sure that it's successful, and we've already talked to a lot of people who are interested in those officer positions, with the goal of supporting the teachers and staff like we were able to do this year.
That's great.
All right, thank you for that. Next, we're on to our 7 series employment recommendations.
So I asked Margie to also highlight in here what our openings were at this time, right? Because we are heavy into hiring season, but you will see the resignations up on top. That middle school tech ed teacher, Mr. Nortman's pretty proud of how aggressively he found an individual for that, so that's great. And then those are the openings that are still there. I think we have one of our high school special ed teachers an agreement, right? Yep, so that one's down to one, but it changes daily, so.
And EC has one.
And early childhood has one, so there you go. And you can see they have a couple interviews set up for later this week, so. We do need approval for the professional staff, new employees.
I make a motion to approve the employee recognitions and resignations.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright. Next, 8.1 is our AGR and your data.
We don't need the AGR contract itself. The data charts would be great. So I thought perhaps each of the buildings could start by telling you something about their data as we go through that they are really exceptionally pleased with, something that went well and how they got there, and then also identify for you what their area for growth is. By the time we get together in September, you will see each building's improvement plan with their action steps and timeline, all of that stuff. The first week of summer vacation, and we had this room packed with all the teacher guiding coalition teams, and they did an awful lot of work on next year. So we can go all the way across. The spring is where we're at now. There you go. You had this data to look at. This is the iReady that you have seen multiple times, broken down with the disaggregated pieces as you have asked for. Do you guys want to share the elementary, Rachel and Melanie and Dan? Actually, this is your data as well.
I can go first. So for Red Creek, we typically had set a goal of 20% of students at or above grade level at the end of the school year. But this year we decided to go with 50% because we were passing that 20% pretty regularly. So we were excited to say that we met that 50% goal. And we are looking forward to next year because we plan on bumping it up even further than that. I think that we can do it. We are starting a new ELA curriculum in the fall that we are really excited about digging into, doing some learning around this summer. And so we're excited to see where that takes us.
So at Forest Street, we had set a couple goals this year, one on achievement, one on growth in both math, and then another one in achievement in reading. We met all of our goals as a school this year, and each year we sit down and look at how do we grow our system even more from year to year. And so small steps in the right direction is what we're seeing. Some of the things that we did this year, so our kindergarten adopted a new math curriculum, which really allowed for clear alignment on the instructional practices that we're using. First grade sat down and looked at their instruction, and there was a new teacher on their team this year and got her on board. They too had exceptional growth in math. So again, we met our achievement goals, our growth goals that we set in ELA. We pushed our students even further and saw some phenomenal growth. This year in 4K2, we looked at, so they don't take iReady or do the DIBELS assessment. However, we looked at their teaching strategies goal. That's how we assess students in 4K, and we set a goal that was in alignment for both math and ELA, and our 4K friends even met their goals too. So we also, because Forest Street is a alternate accountability school, because we don't graduate kids and we don't take the state standardized assessment, we have to do something called the alternate accountability, and so we either have to have a graduation goal or a attendance goal, and so we also had an attendance goal, and we didn't quite make our goal on that one. I think that's important to keep talking about is our attendance at Forest Street. So our goal was to reduce the amount of chronically absent students that are at Forest Street, and it did decrease by 1 percentage point for what we were tracking. So in the right direction, but definitely not where we wanted it to be. So we know that kids can't learn at those grade levels if they're not here with us. So we did do some great system building though, connecting families who needed some resources with our community health workers. and reaching out to families or teachers, reach out to them when they are concerned about absenteeism. And then there's a whole system that follows them as well, so.
Middle school, I would just say that we are still not seeing the growth that we want to see, the type of growth. While we have high growth, our proficiency isn't where it needs to be, so we need higher growth yet. So we're going to continue to work on that. The other thing I would say about iReady is that our 2 grade levels and below, and our three or more grade levels below, that did decrease for us this year. So that is something to be proud of, but still there's room for improvement. We are going to continue working on our guaranteed viable curriculum. Our tier 1 instruction's got to be first. And once we get that aligned, we have our guarantees pretty much done. We've got a lot of common assessments done, but now we need to start getting those unit plans and those pacing guides done so we can start looking at that data and using it more effectively and more efficiently to guide our instruction and our reteaching. I think that's going to help. I'd also say that I got us in a mess this year, and I didn't do a good enough job scheduling our Wisconsin footwear testing and our iReady, and they got really pushed together. So by the time our students are doing iReady testing, they'd already been testing for 6 or 7 days. And I did some testing, we beat them up a little bit, so potentially that could be on me. Regardless, it's just an excuse or just me, we need to do better, so we're going to continue to work on that. One thing I will say that I'm kind of proud of this year, if we combine our minor and our major incidents at the middle school, we decreased our total incidents by 600 this year. So I think that's pretty drastic. That's big. I think some of that has to do with the teachers and how hard they work this year, setting their expectations and improving with PBIS. So definitely something to be proud of. We all know the middle school can be a tough place at times, and if we can keep working on that behavior, I think that's also going to help us with our academics as well. So I think that's about all for me.
I realize that we have board members looking at this stuff for the first time, so I should have started with a greater explanation. So would you scroll back to the fall? So when we talk about the colors, it's kind of self-explanatory, but we look at this, both of the green ones, as students being on grade level. I recognize not everyone agrees, but generally, anybody who is green, we consider to be on grade level. And so our goal, when you look at the traditional multi-level systems of support, they say the general core curriculum should be meeting the needs of 80 to 85% of your students. About 15 to 20% should need some other intervention, and about 5% need a lot more intervention. So when we look at our 2 green columns, we want that to be about 80 to 85% of our students, and our yellow and 2 reds should equal about 15 to 20% of our students. And so when you look at our fall testing, and I do want to point this out, Brandon Jar usually does a great job of noting this. A student who leaves us in spring as a 2nd grader and joins us in fall as a 3rd grader with no instruction happening in between is expected to have grown. So that score doesn't stay the same. So if they score the exact same test score in May as a 2nd grader and they score it in September as a 3rd grader, they will be down in proficiency because they are expected to grow during the summer. When we look at kids that are green now, that target moves throughout the year. So the target in fall is lower than the target mid-year and is lower than the target in the spring. So it is expecting growth all the time, and then it determines how much growth. A student who scores in the red is expected to grow more because we're increasing interventions and stuff for them, and so they should be experiencing more growth. So when you think about it in that way, then we roll over. So for example, you can see down the 3 or more grade levels, the youngest grade levels, that's not appropriate to look at because they haven't been in school 3 grade levels. But you can see some of the higher numbers in the 3 or more grade levels, and that was fall. So if you want to scroll over to middle of the year or winter, you start to see a little bit of a shift, more kids moving up to the green, and that bottom moving slightly, and then in the spring, you can see a pretty significant shift on that end of the spectrum as well. And so when Rachel said that they're above 50% at or above grade level, when you add 2nd grade, the 30 plus 29, and if we want 15% percent to be in those lower numbers. We're getting really close to that in some of those grade levels, which is fantastic. Our challenge is how next fall can we start from this starting point as opposed to dropping and starting back in where we were the fall, right? We talk about that all the time. If the kids acquire the skills earlier in the school year, will they be more solidified so that they're not quite so apt to lose them during the summer? What else can our community do to help encouraging some reading during the summer months so that kids aren't all regressing during the summer? That is certainly not just a Black River Falls problem, it is a national problem, but it's pretty significant when you look at where kids reach in the spring and then next fall come back and it's a whole different picture. So I just wanted to explain what you were looking at there. Any questions about the iReady data?
Is anything weighted at all towards individuals' IEPs?
Their scores up there do not change. We just report out on them differently, but they are expected to meet grade level expectations.
Yep, so they're in those numbers.
They're in those numbers, yeah.
Okay.
And so, to Casey's point, about our district average has about 20% of our student population is a student with an IEP. And we have some students that have an IEP in the area of math, and they would be in that 3 or more grade levels below, and they might be green in reading because that is where their true disability is. And then we have other students that are in our intellectual disabilities that are likely in the red for both categories or whatever that may be. So all of our special ed students are in those top columns, are literally all of our students. Good question. Yeah.
Have you ever considered, and this is just a sillier idea, but not a bad one in my opinion, like have you ever considered like the school district collaborating with the Ho Chunk Nation to put in the hands of every child at least at Forest Street and Red Creek like bridge work for the summer for the parents to do? A lot of times I think like that, I mean we do it at home, but we buy it ourselves, we go pick it out ourselves and then we do it ourselves, but it may be helpful to consider like a collaboration at the end of the year. It wouldn't hurt to give every child that workbook. It's typically covering a wide range of subjects and topics, even to include physical education, much to my chagrin. But we are very excited about that, and it would be a great idea to put one in the hands of every at least Forest Street student and Red Creek, so that, I mean, at least if we give it to them, there's a possibility that the kids will want to do it. We give stickers there. I mean, that's just a thought, you know,
sure.
that we could.
I know a lot of teachers go
into.
through their classroom libraries, and when books have been gently used for multiple years, they share those with students a lot in the spring as well.
One thing to note on that, Forest Street, and maybe you didn't know what you're talking about,
can.
but we send out academic learning bags for our families anytime they ask for them. I know that, I think this past year, I don't know if we sent them home with every kid.
Ellen, you have to face this way. She has a hard time.
I need to ask them questions, so.
Or in Gillingham, we sent home the lowest students got those packets for the summer.
Great.
Yeah. So we're constantly trying to meet the needs of our families and our students, and also keep students engaged and wanting to learn and not to have it be such a burden at home either. Trying to make the things that they can do engaging. So we've been tinkering with that for quite a few years. Good deal.
Anything else on the iReady? Others?
Yes, but please enlarge the whole slide. Click on that box.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm not sure I understand.
You want to see all the data?
Yeah, there is a cross sign. Next to cross is.
Just maximize it.
Like, want to
Yeah.
see all of the? You're not gonna be able to read them.
Yeah. Please bring it back as it was. Okay. Let's start out with Native Americans school, middle school, Native American student 81 in the spring.
Are you on math or ELA?
This is the ELA slide.
Okay.
81 student total Native American. 21% did an excellent job out of 81. And then 9% also did an excellent job out of 81. Both together, they are 24 students out of 81. 55 students are still 1 grade level behind, 2 grade level behind, and 3 grade level behind. And if we go on the winter slide, yes, 88 Native American students, 36 were doing good. Comparative 21% of this term of spring. And then 30% were doing good as well. Comparative this spring, we have just 9% comparative 30. So we kind of beat up there. We didn't do a good job. Now we will go to.
Wait, can I ask a question? Would that have had to do with the condensed testing schedule?
Potentially.
It also has to do with students in May, and it's sunny out, and I've taken this test since I was in first grade, right? I mean, there's a lot of factors that weigh into it, a lot of factors.
Yes. So now we go to the spring data once again to look at the middle school non-native. Non-native means white students as well as other minorities together, but majority of them are white folks. They are 236 in the middle school, as you folks see, 236. 27 did a good job, 27% did a good job, and 20% extra did a good job. Both together are 110 students out of 236 did an excellent job. 124 students are still behind 1 grade, 2 grade, and 3 grade. 3 grade out of 236. So this is still slightly disappointing. Then we go to the Red Creek. Native American student 101 in a spring. 14%.
Iftikhar,
Yeah.
and I don't want to interrupt you here, but I mean, we're all grown adults and we can read numbers.
No, I'm not
do the
reading
math,
for you.
So,
I'm reading for the people of the Jackson County. That is live telecast. You can see. I'm not reading for the board members. You already got these papers.
if you could next time maybe pretense that so we know what you're doing, that would help.
Oh,
Then I wouldn't ask you.
we are representative of those people. I'm telling them.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks for clarifying. But,
Yes. And I hope Banner General will pick up once again.
Yeah.
So now we will go to the Red Creek. Native American student, 101 Native American student. 14% did a good job, no doubt about it. And then 22% also did a good job. Altogether, they become 39 students out of 101 students. Still, 72 students Native American, Red Creek, are 1, 2, 3 grade level behind. So that is also very shocking to me. It's, not very excellent. Now we will go to the Red Creek white student as well as other minorities together. They are all together 342 students right there. 32% did a good job. Also 23% did a good job. Both together are 185. That's very good number. But still 157 are 1, 2, 3 grade level behind. That is big concern. So this is about ELA by now, and then once we will talk about mathematics, I will talk about it.
But are you trying to make a point?
Oh, I made a point for the people of Jackson County, for Black River Valley School District.
Iftikhar, this isn't a meeting, right?
Yeah.
This is our meeting,
Yes.
right? For
us.
the open,
Yeah.
right? This is not, we're not here to broadcast, they're here to witness our meeting,
Yeah.
right?
So I'm telling, I cannot tell you anything, you already got it,
You
right?
didn't
Correct.
tell us anything.
So I'm also telling those who didn't get it. Is it okay
If they
to
want it,
let them know?
If they want it, they can reach out to Dr. Severson.
Yeah.
How many people will, this is a very technical data, I'm making it piece of cake. Anybody could understand.
You're multiplying percentages by numbers, I wouldn't call that highly technical.
Why don't you talk to the parents and ask them that, what number is this? They work in Walmart. They work in a different industries. But that is not my point. Once we will talk to the mathematics. Why are you upset?
I don't wanna waste this board's time
This is
having
the-
numbers read.
This is our core duty of the board
So are we,
about education,
are you
and therefore we will be talking about next plan to help those who are behind.
So then let's get to the plan.
Let's,
Yeah.
oh yeah, of course.
great, let's
All
get
right,
on
so
with it.
are we done with the AGR and end of your data then?
No, we have still mathematics slides to come.
We've already
We
showed
already
it, and
covered
already
those.
talked about it.
No, this is yearly. Now mathematics is different, which is this one.
I make a motion to move on.
Okay, a motion?
Discuss?
I-
Discuss is,
I guess what we're trying, I'm struggling a little too, I'm trying to understand, are you requesting that we discuss action plans? Because if that's the case, I'm willing and would love to engage in that. I don't, I think that the data, they can see the data, we can see the data, so if that conversation is something, let's have it. If now feels like the time that this space where we are gonna engage in that, but we review it ahead of time so that we can, be respectful of the time everybody has in the evenings. So,
do you have to go home?
no, I don't have to go
Oh,
home.
okay.
But I've also already reviewed this information that I got in my email a week ago.
Okay, please tell me in mathematics, how many Native Americans are behind?
I can pull it up just like you can.
Just scroll
Okay,
down.
you please tell me the number.
Okay, hang on. Do you want to just move it over?
Yes, please move it over.
Anybody want a second? Moving on to the next
I'll
topic?
second that.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second to close 8.1. Further discussion on that?
Yes, further discussion. I took an oath to talk about the education, and that is the education. We are taking a vote to go against the education of the children of Black River Falls School District. Absolutely not. That is my core duty to stand by their education until the end. That is my point.
I agree with you.
You do.
I absolutely 100% agree with you. However, regurgitating the data that's already been presented isn't actually coming up with a plan to do that. So I'm asking you if you have a solution or some suggestion or some idea or some beautiful proposal as to like what the next steps for some of those numbers that we might be struggling with look like.
Yes, I'm a kind of guy, talk 2-3 minutes, and then I have a proposal too.
Okay.
But would you allow me to talk 3 minutes? You are taking a motion to suspend the talk of the failure of our school board.
I haven't voted at all. I'm asking you.
Yeah, I would like to talk, but they are taking a vote not to talk about education. This is what they're talking.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about education.
Okay, then do.
What I don't want to do is have numbers read to me that I read over the weekend.
Yeah.
But I would like to read it for Jeanette.
Jeanette can't read?
Do you know how many white folks were behind? I can tell you.
You can't. You can tell me the non-native, you can't tell them the white. I just want to keep saying that
And
out loud.
non-native
Thank you.
and also other minorities together.
Yeah.
I can talk about it. Why are you scared?
No,
I'm not scared. It's not
We
a
want
good
to
use
talk
of my
about that,
time.
we just.
So let's go down and let me talk about it. But you want to have a motion or
There's a
something?
motion and a
Yeah,
second.
I made it very clear. If you folks want to go against the children of the education and their well-being of the education, I totally disagree with you all time.
Thanks for your opinion.
Not opinion,
So-
because you're not talking about it.
So the motion and the second is to close section 8.1. All those in favor? Aye.
No.
Opposed?
Oh,
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. So let's try that again. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
no.
No.
I didn't hear anything.
If we have like, I guess I'm still asking the question of if there's actual content and proposals as to solutions, I'm on board.
Yes,
I'd hold off on that, but if we
is.
can't get
Yes.
to that point without having to go through all the material we've already read, which is extensive, I would say then maybe we aren't prepared enough for that conversation yet, and we need to come up with a more accurate, concise proposal.
I do have a proposal, but you are
Okay,
trying not to talk about the education.
Let's listen to your proposal.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, first let me tell you
No.
what.
No.
No
How?
data, just a proposal.
No, I will tell to the people of the Black
All right,
River Falls
so
district.
I-
You are against the parents you folks are against their children, not to tell them, look, this, change the
I move that
slide.
we end the reading of the data and then we move to if the car's proposal.
I second.
All right, further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
No, what are you talking about? Before I give a
Okay.
proposal, I want to explain
So-
where we went wrong.
We have a majority that want to hear your proposal.
Okay? Fund 80 has to be used for the well-being of the children's education, nothing else. Because whatever you guys are hiding from the parents, it was exposed. All the failure of every board member that it says 59 Native American students in middle school are behind 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 grade levels. And then white people as well as other minorities, 147 of them are behind in mathematics. Out of two.
So again,
No.
we move to dispense with the reading of data.
Yeah.
Can we hear the proposal?
Why this number kind of pinch you?
I
Go
can
ahead.
answer that. I think the way that you present it is probably offensive to a lot of people because you keep saying Native American, which I definitely care about, but I also care, I'm here because I care about all of the children.
I'm talking about it, white and other minorities. Did you hear me saying that? Check the video anytime.
Well,
Anytime.
yeah, I heard you, but I'm just saying like we already went over all the data and I hate to see it keep
It's kind of
separating
it's difficult, right, for you to hear it.
Well, no,
From
it's
you,
not
yeah.
always fun to hear.
From you have a problem with me?
I do.
Oh, okay. Now, there are Native American in a Red Creek.
So again, we move to dispense with the reading of data. I assume that you have a proposal related to Fund 80.
Tell them not to suppress the voice of minorities against
So-
our rules. Tell them.
Fund 80 is for community service, right, not for instructional purposes. So I'm interested to hear what your proposal is for Fund 80.
Fund 80.
Fund 80 has to be utilized on the well-being of the education of the children, and that is the community service.
Okay,
This
so
is,
what's your
and therefore, I brought Fund 80 rule of law with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we are running a government business without attorney. Where is our attorney to interpret these laws? If I interpret, everybody got mad at me. If I talk about data, everybody tried to suppress the voice of minorities.
No, nobody's trying to like suppress anything. We
Yeah.
read the data.
Suppress the voice of minority. I am the minority.
Why are you the minority?
She's true.
No,
Why is she the minority?
I think all of us are asking you, like, oh, okay, we're listening to you.
What are you bringing to
We
the
have,
table?
if you have a solution, we're wanting to hear it.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
just don't need it, we understand the data. So regurgitating it to us as if we're not,
Not
hanging
capable
with
of
you and catching on
understanding
is
data.
not necessary. We
What
see
do
the data.
you understand from a data?
I can see the data.
Yeah,
just
we
like
Or
you
what
can.
did you understand?
We have
We've got
A
to
good
do
news or devastated news?
If the car.
You don't want to say the truth.
I do know exactly that we've got students here that are not performing at
How
the same
many
level
of
as other
them?
people.
How many
There's
of them?
There's a lot of like
I would argue
generational
one is too
trauma.
many.
One,
I
two.
don't think there's anyone on this board that doesn't think that we can do better.
We're asking you.
So you finally agree that one too many students are behind under your leadership.
No, not finally. That's why I got on this board.
So you are a leader, president, under your
Correct.
presidency.
Yep.
Do you accept that you are utterly failure in your presidency?
I believe that I have done everything I can in my seat.
This is what you have done?
If
That's what
a
you've
single
done. You've been
action
on the
by
board for
me
over a year
could
yourself.
solve all of this
I am
community's
the one who's
problems.
talking about it. I am the one who's saying myself.
So you're
It's
saying
hard.
like we need to do more as a team, as a group. We need to come together and come up with ways to do better for the kids, for the families. I think all of us that are here for that purpose.
And the families could also do better.
Yeah.
So
But yelling at us, the data doesn't fix the
Doesn't
problem.
fix it.
It just
But
makes
we're
us
willing
say
to
that
listen.
there is
Like,
one.
if you have-
I was smoothly talking as a representative of thousands of people who voted for me. I am their voice. You are suppressing their voice.
No.
No.
No?
We are, I
Then allow me
I
to talk.
sincerely asked you
So-
for the proposal.
Yeah, we're waiting for your proposal.
First, I will talk what went wrong and who is responsible.
No, we want to hear your proposal.
Proposal is who's responsible.
Every single one of us. Every single person in this community is responsible.
Fine, no. Community trusted us.
No, every member of this community is
Yeah.
responsible
We
for the
all
success
have-
or failure of this community.
There are multiple stakeholders.
So
in
the
school districts.
community members, the parents are responsible, the failure of the student this is what you said?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, this is amazing. They send you to defend the education of their children.
When we have,
We have to work together, like, I understand where
You
you're
are condemning the parents.
No,
Yes. I'm not
This
blaming
is-
the parents,
we are
but
suggesting
We are-
that they're a
when you are a
stakeholder.
parent, it is your job and your job only to make sure that your children are present, on time, at school, out of bed, where they're supposed to be, up, doing their homework, checking their bags, checking their folders, and I'm not gonna blame the teachers or us who have literally nothing to do with that for the failure of any child.
Nobody is blaming the teacher.
As we
The
saw-
proposal is the shortage of teacher. Proposal because you have look what you have. A few teachers.
Well, look at all the parents that are here, so I think the parents are,
I mean, it is you folks are condemning the parents, not me. I am their voice. I will always talk about
I'm
this.
not
So you
condemning
said-
all of them,
Nobody's
but the ones
condemning
that are
anybody.
failing.
Okay, you're not condemning
No,
them.
they
You
are-
are saying that they are responsible the
Why don't
failure of their
I get to
children.
decide what I say,
Yeah.
and you get to decide what you say? Because you keep telling me what I'm saying, and you're not interpreting you're interpreting what I'm saying to
Okay.
mean something different than what I'm actually
Okay,
saying.
please say what you are saying.
When it comes to a child's education, there are multiple stakeholders. There are teachers, there are board members, there are staff, district staff, there are aides, there are parents. There are the community that we choose to put our kids and our friends around, and we all have a stake in how our kids perform. And there are so many different factors that have to be taken into consideration. You can read the data, and none of us are thrilled about it. We're all here because we're not thrilled about it. But in order to come up with a solution, you cannot expect somebody to come up with a solution without engaging all of the stakeholders and asking all of the people that are involved in our child's success, every single one of them, to be at the table. Because if without that, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna keep struggling, you're still gonna get crappy numbers. So I'm here because I'm asking every stakeholder to take part in being able to bring our kids to a new place. I'm here to think creatively about how we can change numbers. What I'm not here to do is just be berated about what the numbers look like, because we know that they're not good.
Okay, so you are not here to take the responsibility of your leadership.
I wouldn't come here if I didn't take the responsibility and the leadership.
Okay,
for
so
the
you
way things are going.
you are agree along with your friends. You folks are utterly failure.
As are you.
I never said I'm never. I always say that this is the utter failure of the board, lack of teacher, ratio of the student and the teacher. Everything is so devastated. And this is what the outcome is. When the ratio is disturbed, you know that bridge, it's based on the ratio to drive the car on the top of it. The ratio is very important. 18 student, 21 student, 1 teacher, this is not fair. This is the, go ahead.
I have a question, sir. So like if, say, 50% of the kids are in the green, okay, and 50 of them aren't, okay? So does that ratio work for 50% but doesn't work for the other 50%? What's the difference?
Actually, it is not 50% who are doing good. They are like 30% they
That's
are.
not what he asked though.
And
So
Difference.
what about this ratio?
You are saying if.
Okay. Hypothetically,
Hypothetically.
if 50% of them are in the green and the rest of them are in the toilet, okay? What's the difference? The ratio is the same for both of them.
The ratio is 1 and 1, 100%. 1 over 1, it means 100%. So that assumption,
I'm just saying the teacher to student ratio is the same for both groups.
how many student and how many, how much one teacher and how many student supposed to be there?
I'm just saying that the ratio of teacher to student is the same for the ones in the green and the ones that are not. So what's the difference?
I'm not understanding.
What's the why are they not all in the green if the ratio is the same?
Why all are not in the green?
Yeah.
You are very intelligent man. I like that.
No, I'm asking you a question.
Yeah, let me admire your question. Yes, because why not all are green? Because we are utterly failure. Nobody is asking this question. Why they are all not green?
But you know, like, what's the X factor? What's the difference?
Difference is
It's the
that we
parents.
want to bring everybody to be successful.
Yeah.
We do not want to deceive the parents. We do not want to be, in English they use the word, the enemy of the children's education. That I will never tolerate that. So therefore, the ratio of the teachers, increase the teachers, find the funding and try to use the fund 80, 90, 20 into this education. This is why this school was built on the base of education, not on your sports, not any other activity. First thing is first, education, then other thing we will give you later on. So I would say, let me talk about the data first.
I think you've said enough.
No, nothing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've heard enough.
Okay, you will see my newsletter then. I will reach to my people.
Hand deliver it to me. Please bring it out to me.
I will release my newsletter, which I promise not to do it.
Okay, so Iftikhar, I've got
Yes.
a question. If we have a lack of available funding, a lack of available childcare, and we've got more people leaving the district than we've got coming in, how is it proposed that we're going to like increase teachers if we can hardly fill the positions we currently have?
We need a funding for that to increase teachers, to reduce the ratio of student and teacher. So
You
teachers should
said
not.
that, but
Because
the problem is
I am an inside guy. That was during my campaign I always talk. I am inside guy. I was a teacher inside, and I know how each teacher is abused. I'm an eyewitness. I told the principal that you are being abused. Tom Chamber. I told him you are being abused. Go home. It's 6 o'clock in the night. Yes, you can check him out with him anytime. Did Iftikhar tell you that? He will tell you, yeah, because he never worked for us. He's outsider. He worked for the Ho Chunk Nation. We cannot even write him up or fire him. So I have seen the teacher have so much unnecessary stupid
I don't
work.
disagree at all. in that
Stupid
front,
work
but
they
I'm
have to
asking
do,
you-
paperwork, rather than put your brain in a teaching. I have eyewitnessed it.
So what's your solution?
Solution is take away all garbage work which is imposed on the teachers, unnecessary paperwork. They have to concentrate on the education. They have to invest time on education and update the grades. Grades are not being updated on time because the teachers are so busy with so many things. How do I know? I'm inside guy. You don't believe me? Ask it. They are newer folks. But you can ask the other teachers, they will let you know. Paul Ricken.
No longer works here.
Retired.
Yeah, I mean, I am 55, so they are also retired.
We're simply saying that you're not as inside anymore because
Yeah.
a lot of the people you work with back then are no longer here.
Yeah, so I have noticed the teachers are being abused and as well as principals. So we have to do something very drastically. Please allow me to go in the school. You folks stop me. You say you cannot meet with your constituent after school. That is kind of creepy. That I am not allowed to meet with my constituent.
It's kind of
You are the one who stopped me.
No.
more.
I have never stopped you from meeting with the constituents.
They are my constituent.
Correct. We have not, as a board, I did not do anything. I don't hold that power. We as a board have not authorized Iftikhar to conduct an investigation in the school.
No, that's the wrong word. No investigation. I want to meet with the chemistry teacher after school, 3:30. I want to meet with the physics teacher, 3:30. Math, algebra 1, algebra 2. And also environmental chemistry and biology, zoology and botany. Of course, US history as well. Allow me to go and let me hang out with them. It won't take me 3 days to win their heart. Ask to my school district. Go ahead, Amy.
Thank you. I think it's also important, to acknowledge we're all here for the same reasons, and even though it's hard for you to believe, we all care about children in our community, everybody in this room does, and we all want to see the kids succeed, and we all saw through the data that there's room to do better or more and to improve, and we acknowledge that. But I think it's also important to acknowledge that even if we had 1 million more teachers, some of the children in this community, and Michaela was leaning in this direction, there are factors that are outside of our control that contribute to the success of those children or the lack thereof, such as trauma, family situations, foster care, socioeconomic factors. So even if we had 50 new teachers in the fall, we're still gonna have, I just hope you know that we're still gonna have a large number of kids in this district failing, because there are things outside of their control and outside of their family's control that have nothing to do with education. And let's think Maslow here, when we can't meet those really bottom level, really basic needs that they have, they're not going to be able to think about or concentrate on school or do a good job, regardless of how many. I've seen it 1 million times over. It's very unfortunate. So I hope you also realize that even if we had 1 million extra teachers, there are still going to be so many kids that fail. And there's so many, Michaela could enlighten us to the thousands of reasons of why that is. And it's just very true in this community.
Absenteeism is real, and like if the kids aren't there, it doesn't matter how many teachers you have. If they're not attending.
We had 80% of our freshmen, 80% missed more than 10% of the days.
That is not the teachers or principal failure, it is the failure of the board. Unless we don't accept. But let's talk about education. We'll talk about other factors which are also variables will be intact. As Amy says, if we hire 1 million teacher or more teacher, that will cause the law of diminishing returns. That is bad. We have to have a balanced employees, the balance ratio. We cannot hire excess. That will cause the more drastic result. So many cook will spoil the curry. So no, we have to have appropriate staff with the help of the number of students. One teacher and maybe 16 students. The ratio.
I think that what you may be confused is that in a perfect world, we would all agree with you wholeheartedly, hands down. I know teachers would love to have lesser students. School principals would probably like to see those ratios as well. But again, these are budgetary things outside of our control.
These teachers and these principal waiting for our leadership. They can't speak.
I think what I would like to see is a proposal that outlines exactly where you think you're going to pull these dollars from, how you're going to, and what positions you're going to hire. I think just saying this money should be coming from here and going over to there is very like, okay, well that doesn't really do us any good. I think if you're going to come up with a proposal about more staffing, you better come up with a proposal that outlines where we're currently at, where you're planning to get the money from, how much it's going to cost, where you're going to hire, and what that's going to look like.
Okay.
So I think when you come to me
These
with
are
like
the
that,
very-
we'll dance. But
These are very good
this should
questions.
kind of happen over here doesn't really do it.
So bring that to us. I mean, what she's talking about, I mean, if you take the time and put that together, and bring that to us to help to try to make a decision, we're all gonna listen to that. But I'm not gonna listen to what's going on right now.
You won't listen what we did to the children?
What we did to the children.
We are the leaders.
No,
We
not the leader.
we will not talk what we did to the children of the education.
We did. We've talked about that. We've received board packets so that we could prepare ourselves to think about that. So that when we got here, we could talk intelligently about opportunities and proposals for moving forward.
Yeah,
I'm all about the
I made a commitment. I will not write the newsletter. If that is the case, I know how to reach out to my constituent.
You're stuck in the past. Let's
No.
talk about the future.
This is the current future.
That's the past. That's what data that already happened. Those are
This
numbers that
is
have already happened.
2 months ago. It's just
It's
one.
still the past.
No, not 1 month ago. 21 days ago.
It's still the past, Iftikhar. We need to talk about what we're gonna do next to change
fix
those
it.
numbers.
Data shows you there is a problem.
Yep.
Yes.
Doesn't
What
fix it.
and how long this problem has been going on? 25 years, 30 years, 18 years?
Right, but data won't fix it.
How long this is
Solutions
going
first,
on?
like,
We need solutions. I don't care.
From what I can see, beyond 25 years.
Beyond 25 years,
Yep.
we have 1, 2,
And I'm gonna guess way longer than that. That's just the oldest data that's out there.
years. So 25 years are leaders, board members harming the children's education.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Now you said that it's our fault that the kids that are truant, like 10% of the time or more, that's our fault, not the teacher's fault, not the principal's fault, but it's the board's fault. How does that work out? Wouldn't that be more of the parents' fault for not getting them to school? Or making it a priority for them
You are
to
saying
take time?
parents' fault, which means you are condemning the parents. Is that right?
Okay, do you think
Parents
the
have
parents
not
have any
provided
stake in
all
their
the
education?
school.
You are using the word the parents' fault, so you are condemning the parents.
So,
But
Somebody's
like I
fault.
said last month, I had my daughter was #1 in her class and gave the valedictorian speech, but that girl also walked in late to whatever that first class of the day is called, and whose fault is that? Mine and Chad's. You know what I mean? We could have done better, said something more, but she was #1, so we let it fly. Those are decisions we make as parents. That is 100%, if she didn't do as well, that would also be my fault. Everything she does basically until she turns 18 is my fault, because that's what being a parent means, at least to me.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
The board-
it's my job. It's my job and responsibility to get them there. You know what I mean? But when they get their driver's license and they stop for coffee or they're putting their mascara on for too long, that's not
Amy,
Nick's fault.
Amy
It's not
Blackbeard, you are
Michaela's
giving,
fault that Paige
you
loves
are giving
coffee.
the example of your own child. She was late, but she rocked this school, an academic.
But if
No
she
matter
didn't-
how much absent and late
But if
she
she
is,
didn't, that
she
would
did a
be.
good job anyway.
But if she didn't, that would be my fault, though. No, not
So
Nick's or.
you were comparing her lateness, but her education was, she's a
But
dean's
that's
list.
because I was
She's
doing
a
my,
dean's list.
that's because I'm doing my job at home, and not everybody is doing that.
So no matter she's late, still she's doing good in education.
Yeah,
It's
because
possible.
she has me for a mother. That's why.
Okay, so there are many, there are 20 students, Native American did a good job. They were many time late, many time absent due to especially their funeral. It goes 4 days and they take it very seriously. I forgot the Native American word they use, which you probably would know, which comes in a time sheet, we have to write that. So still they did, 20 of them did a good job.
That's great.
So where
So-
are we going?
I'm going 59 of them are 1, 2, 3, 4 grade level behind.
So what I'm
Right,
thinking.
so what are we trying to get out of this
Right,
discussion
that's-
right
So
now?
what I'm
Because
thinking
we are
is-
so sidetracked.
this
is
is
there
for-
further discussion on 8.1 or are we
Yeah.
ready to move on?
She wanted to say something.
Go ahead, Jen, what would you like to say?
I think
Speak
it
up.
is something that we need to look at, but we are also on that small committee, looking for other options. And that is something we need to take to that committee. And we can look at it, come back with a proposal. Because we're not going anywhere right now. It's stagnant. So I think we need to just take the information we have, you have, and we will move it to that committee,
Totally agree.
okay?
You have to
We have a committee coming up with Nick,
Right, so
me.
let us work on that together.
But today was a different topic, not about the Nick's committee.
I get that,
This
but-
is very disrespectful. They shut me down, the voice of a minority. That is disgusting. That is an
Disrespectful is
absolute.
you still going off, that's disrespectful to everybody that's in this room.
I just have one
That's
quick question
disrespectful.
if you're okay.
Okay.
I just wanna, hey, if I have one quick question for you. Just wanna clarify, do you agree that parents have a stake in the success and the failure of their students?
Yes, they are in it for the success of the student.
And the failure?
Why they would want to fail their child? They trusted us. They trusted the staff. They trusted our superintendent. They trusted everybody. Therefore, they let their child go. Why? I asked the parents. She goes like, I cannot teach chemistry. It's been long time ago. Oh, really? Don't worry. We will teach. I want to see the chemistry department in high school. You folks not allowing me to see the chemistry department and the lab.
So I just want to make sure you know that the parents are determined to success in the failure.
No failure. Why they want failure of their child? Why?
Because
And
this
they don't
is
care.
They trust you. They trust you. They get out. They get out.
It's time to move on.
They get out and stand on the line and voted for you.
So make a motion to move on.
Let Michaela say what,
Amy Blackbeard has to say.
I
let
have
Michaela speak, please.
I have a motion to.
Can Michaela speak?
One moment, I have a motion to close 8.1. I will second that. Further discussion? Michaela, would you like-
motion.
I'm Iftikhar, we're not shutting you down because you're a minority. We're asking you for further clarification on your proposal. And if that's not something that you can provide right now, we're willing and we want to hear
I
it.
just wanted
So-
to talk 4
So-
minutes.
So the
They
discussion,
shut me down.
all right.
Believe me.
So the motion before the board is to close discussion on 8.1. All those in favor? Aye.
No.
Opposed?
Oppose. Of course.
All right, motion carries.
I'm for the
8.2.
Do you have an accurate vote?
Who was my second?
Nick
Brad
and Brad.
seconded.
Brad,
was second.
I couldn't tell the numbers from the
I
eye.
couldn't tell the ayes
All right.
or the nays.
So
6-2.
6-1.
6.
6-1. Thank you.
I am the one, you know.
8.2, you were co-curricular
I apologize,
participation.
while we were sitting here, I realized I did not have that in your packet, so I apologize. It moved in there magically while we were sitting here. So this is a report that we are required to, per the board core agenda, as well as for our impact aid, that we analyze data in this way. And I just want to be very clear, after all of that conversation, we are required by the federal government to measure our counts and our achievement and our attendance and our participation by Native versus all other students. We are required to do this. There is no other reason than that is the way we are federally required to report it. So I put all Native participants together, and again, those are just the students that are self-identifying through registration that they are Native, and then all other groups are lumped together. So I just want to be super clear, that's why we have it worded like that. So you can see each one of the seasons and the participation. When you look down at the bottom, the totals, the bottom of each season, my apologies. When you consider our Native American population is about 20 to 24%, I would say that our participation numbers fall within that range or pretty darn close to each one of our seasons. And so while we would love to see the number of people participating in all the extra and co-curricular go up across the board, at least there is equal representation. So, or the ratio of representation is matches our demographics. So there's fall, you can see the seasons and how much participation there is. Fall, obviously the bigger football is just a larger numbers game. And then winter goes down to 114 participants. And spring we go up to about 165. So again, that's part of the core agenda that you look at that. Michelle also put together the clubs at the high school if you want to keep scrolling. She shared the advisors too. Not all of those clubs are ones that the board often sees, but some of them you do see for different reports during the year. It is in the packet now. Again, I apologize that it was not there prior. It does not need your approval, just sharing.
Questions on that one? Okay, we'll move on to 8.3.
Dr. Sullivan's going to talk.
Hello, I am going to be talking a little bit about Title VI programming tonight. And so with the structure of Title VI is that we create goals each year, and then kind of like goal priorities, so they're not like traditional like SMART goals like we sometimes look at with, for example, the AGR report. And then we create funding priorities. So in your board packet, I shared with you the very ugly document that's created by the federal government. That is the compilation of all of that work that committee does. And then I also just shared with you, as I thought it'd be easier to kind of have a conversation around the Title VI agenda. So,
Nicole, could you zoom up for a moment and tell them what Title VI serves? I'm not sure that they
Yes.
understand that piece.
So Title VI serves our Native American students in our community, and it's made up of a parent group. So we send out communication and messaging to get more parents to participate. We've had a pretty small group traditionally, but we expanded by 2 people. So that was really exciting. There's a few parents that are doing a lot of heavy lifting around this.
And so these funds come to the district in lieu of property tax for government, wrong, I was thinking impact aid, sorry. Title VI is an entitlement from the federal government based off of the number of Native American students that we serve. And so our entitlement depends on how many Native students are in our district compared to everywhere else, and then there's a dollar amount attached to them. The Parent Advisory Committee is per the Indian policies and procedures that you also saw from the Policy Committee. It's very descriptive over what information has to be shared out to whom and at what points in time. And so that Parent Advisory Committee is really important. Over the years, it's kind of ebbed and flowed with the number of people who have participated. And Bethany Redbird has been a strong partner during this work for the last couple of years, trying to engage more families.
So just for the board's information, there's also a group called Johnson.
It's the Johnson O'Malley.
And it's JOM is what we commonly refer to. They do like the Back to School Bash and other initiatives. So there's also funding coming in for Native American students that way. And so we are working to partner together with those 2 committees so that we're moving together jointly.
And JOM, it does not involve the district at all.
Right.
We're just trying to piggyback so that parents that are involved can take advantage of both programs at the same time. But I just want to be clear, that is not ours.
Again, one more time.
Johnson O'Malley
Okay.
and Title VI. We get Title VI funds, JOM or Johnson O'Malley is the nation. And so while we try to partner our events so that families that are participating can be at both of them, we don't have any say over Johnson and O'Malley.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I know this is yours, but I'm gonna do one more clarification. One more small piece, that's a hiccup when we try to partner too much. Johnson O'Malley can only serve Ho-Chunk Native students, and our district serves all Native American students. And so there are some times that there are programs for Native American students and families in which Johnson O'Malley can't help because we're serving all Native students and they can only serve Ho-Chunk students. So just want to clarify.
Yeah, so there's a lot of pieces that we have to fit together to try to make it all work. Jill, is that agenda by any chance?
It's the next document, I think.
Possible. I just wanted to just thought it might be easy. So if you have the agenda in your packet, there's like a 3A, and it just lists all the different possible priorities that you can go through. So there it is, like all those little Roman numerals there. And that Title VI committee has really been focusing on 2 areas, which is increasing academic achievement through this grant funding and increasing the knowledge of cultural identity and awareness. So there's a lot of good research out there that one way of increasing academic achievement within schools, specific research around Indigenous populations in our country, is to ensure that students have a sense of cultural identity or see themselves in the curriculum. So in some of those activities. So that is how those 2 kind of work together and are important. And in that previous discussion that we were just having, how are some of the ways that we can increase academic achievement across the board, and our theory of action, and this is part of that. So what that committee does is they select a priority, they goal or area to focus on. We reviewed the previous year's budget, which is further down in the document. I just kind of gave you a little synopsis. And then they identified budget priorities, and I just listed them out there. So there's an area under Title VI where you can have contractual budgets. So we've been doing things like helping with speakers and drummers for different programming throughout the year. We've been we have a high school drum group. We have a high school drum that is non-tribal, and so we have coaches then that help teach students about how to use the drum and like the different rules and like all the things around the drum. And then Also, then we have forestry of an academic support aid that is partially funded through Title VI. We worked it this year so that we're funding it through Title VI at the same proportion. Our at a 20% because we're students, and we have 20% Native American students in our school. So that's a proportional, and that's shared with Title I, that person. Previously, we also paid for the attended specialist out of Title VI, and everyone has agreed that we haven't been get as good data out of that as we would have liked, so we're reworking that. And so also we do things with graduation stoles. Those of you that attended graduation, you would notice the stoles, that's all paid for through Title VI. We had the high school art club this year. They're going to increase some funding around that as we lose our out of school time. We don't have out of school time funding, so they're gonna pick up some of those materials. And they also want to support Hurt Spirits. And then we spend a significant part of that budget on professional development for staff. And then just some notes about what that's from last year, what that looks like. So I thought this would be a good topic for you to see and understand that side of things. Do you have any questions on Title VI?
Yes, I do.
Oh, thank you.
Title VI is.
Yes. Oh, and they said no, I'm sorry.
I was working for Title VII back then. This is Title VI.
Title VI.
Yeah, this is a federally grant money.
Correct.
This money utilized for the Ho-Chunk native language.
No.
To hire the tutors or teachers to teach Native American
No,
language.
that's a different grant, that's different funding.
That is not Title VI.
Not Title VI.
What is that funding?
That comes,
So we don't employ the Ho-Chunk language speakers, that is the
Language teachers, not speakers, language teachers.
Yeah.
Just like we have Bonnie Bird
I understand.
in
Cut me
Tomai
off.
School District.
Yes.
She is under the Title VI.
No, she's not. If you let me finish.
Okay.
The Ho-Chunk Nation Language Division hires language speakers, not like a guest speaker, eminent language speakers. So people who are fluent in the Ho-Chunk language. They gift those teachers to the schools, Tomah, Baraboo, Necedah, Black River Falls. We are all part of a consortium on a grant that is called the American Indian Language Revitalization Grant that helps to buy like supplies and small little pieces, but the nation funds the language teachers.
But not the Title VI.
Nope, the nation.
Okay.
any other questions?
No.
Okay. I guess I'm staying here for the next one.
You sure are.
All right, so we
Curious if our
covered
lights are going out. It's
8.4.
So,
I'm sorry, so next, Nicole, is 8.5, I had to look at the secondary virtual programming.
you're doing great, Nicole. So for virtual school programming, we.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming. So this report really impacts students that we have in the middle school and high school. And there's two different ways that we're offering virtual programming. One, in the high school, students can take elective classes, so there's a lot of interesting classes out there that you can take online. And then the second way is it's been an alternate programming pathway for some of our students who, for multiple reasons, are not able to attend during the day. A lot of that sometimes it's mental health. There's a wide variety of reasons why that we've landed there. So I'm not going to read all of these slides to you. So on the next slide, there's some background, I believe, just a definition of what virtual school programming is. And then on the next slide, I'm not going to read these to you. Just about those part-time students, they're the ones that are taking those extracurricular classes. And then on the next slide, there's a difference what happened with online before COVID and after, right? So we have learned a lot, and there's been a lot of shifts in what we're able to do virtually. One of the things that I want you to think or just know about virtual school programming is that there's two different ways that it really can help students. It can help students who want more advanced classes, like a lot of pre-college or courses that we don't offer. It's really kind of exciting for kids. But there are also career clusters and industry certifications and work that they can be doing towards different processes, whether it be in the medical field or tech fields that are offered online as well. In addition to what we're doing with our fabulous CTE teachers and department. So this slides, you were able to look through and see the different names of courses that are offered and the number of students that participated by trimester. And one of the takeaways is that we really were up in programming this year. So we have to take a really good look at that budget for next year and make sure that we don't go over. And there isn't a reason those are highlighted in white, they just turned out that way as it was.
So for reference, it started off with very few kids taking virtual classes, and then that grew and grew and grew as students appreciated the opportunity to have kind of a flex period at the high school. They weren't assigned to be in a class, they could be in the LMC working on that. And so those numbers really grew significantly, and we had to adjust that budget. Then COVID came and everyone had to learn virtually, and those numbers rocketed back down to almost nothing. And so now as COVID is a little bit more in the rear view mirror, more kids are starting to say, maybe I would like to try 1 or 2 virtual classes again. So it's just been interesting to watch that happen. When everyone had to, everyone said, no, I don't want to anymore. So.
And then on the next slide, there's just kind of, we have admission requirements, and we look at if students have failed in the past, like especially for those elective type things, they don't get to do so again in the future, because there is a cost to the district for this programming. And then on the next slide, we use a variety of vendors. What's cool on the top left, Wisconsin Virtual School was our primary vendor through COVID. What's fabulous about that school is that it's all Wisconsin certified teachers who are teaching the classes. We use Edmentum a great deal for some of our alternative programming in the districts. Like at Phoenix. Thank you. I wanted to say the right word. Yes.
So do all of these courses count as credits towards graduation then?
Correct. Once they're in high school, there are a few
right.
middle school kids that take virtual.
And roughly what does a course cost the district?
I would have to get that. I
Okay.
can get those numbers.
I'm just curious.
So like Wisconsin Virtual, like it's all different.
Yeah,
costs.
yeah.
That's what I was gonna say.
So like some of the
I'm just looking like order of
CTE
magnitude.
courses are a little bit more, like Edmentum is one cost. So we pay like $5,000 for Edmentum for the year, and we can go up and down. But virtual school, we pay that by the course, by the semester, which is another trick to all of this is
Semester and trimester blending.
making it all.
And then there are some that you buy a number of seats, and so we have, I would say 10 seats for the year, and so one kid is in that seat and they finish that class, someone else can get in that seat for that next part, and then when they finish, right, so some seats can be reused as the year goes on. What would you say the virtual school budget is? That would be a way to give it a picture.
I know, I just looked at it today. We spent over $60,000 in virtual school.
That's what I was gonna guess, but I try not to guess the numbers.
I try not to ask you numbers, make you guess.
I'm really good at them when I write them down and look at them.
For 13 students, $60,000.
No, that's
13.
way more than 13 students
Way more.
There was 13 digit was there.
on one of them.
Yeah, 23
There's 3 different trimesters.
25.
and 13. Okay,
And
so
then also
this
there's
is trimester 1.
Yep.
61.
Can I answer your question just a little bit more fully before you look at all those numbers? Because some of that programming is also used in other places that weren't counted in here.
Okay.
So like for that Edmentum piece that I talked about, we have a lot of kids that wouldn't be listed here because of the way that those courses are registered for. If I could get you more numbers.
No, that's good.
expensive.
It's not 13. There are more than 13.
Way more than 13.
And growing, is that what I heard?
And growing?
It sounds like it's been going back up since COVID.
It went way, unless, so yeah, maybe since last year.
So you pay like so much per student, or is it just so much per like class that you have availability to?
So Wisconsin Virtual School is so much per class that you purchase. You purchase each class individually. At Edmentum, we purchase 60 seats. And those are the ones Shelley's describing that you can go in and out of. The Career Destinations Academy, some of those are a little bit more, they're more expensive than the virtual school ones.
And so you saw like AP statistics. Our school isn't big enough to offer a whole class of AP statistics, but for those students that is in their career pathway, they're able to take it. So it's a fantastic opportunity to broaden our course offerings. And our problem is that sometimes students just pick a random class because they think it would be fun to have a flex period. So the GPA requirement and they must be, first time they take a virtual class, they can only take one until they demonstrate success, and then the next semester, if they're successful, they can add on. So trying to make sure that they're doing it for the right reasons.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks, Nicole.
All right, next is 9.1, monthly expenditures. There are no questions for Jill, and we'll move to approve.
Second?
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I think, oh, we have that as 9.4, you want to talk about the formats? Remember that was on the agenda,
Oh,
remember?
yep. Do we want to talk about that now?
That would seem to make sense. So Jill presented, I think, 3 or 4 different possibilities, I think it was, for how we want to see numbers.
We're moving to 9.4.
Yes,
We're not doing 9.2.
not right now. Since we're talking expenditures and budget reports, they decided to jump to that one.
Do you want me to go back and find those from last month? Basically, we can print reports however you like. We are required by the state to segment our count numbers in a certain fashion. What we don't have requirements for what's called a location. We choose to use locations in this district to set up kind of like budget centers, I guess. Each school building has a budget center, so they're a location. They have their each unique location number. What's not unique then is the rest of the account number where we talk about supplies used in the classroom for math. Those parts of the account numbers are the same. But the locations are a way for us to segment it out for buildings and grounds, for capital maintenance projects, for our different grants. We use different locations for them as well. So that is one way where you get a feel of the budget, and it's not any more difficult for me to run a report by location or by object, which an object is saying it's salaries or benefits or electricity or fuel or whatever, what we're using the funds for. Or we can look at it by function. The function is more descriptive of like the subject matter. I would say for the 100,000 functions, we have undifferentiated it's called, but then we have reading and math and science and social studies. And so you can see all what's budgeted by those functions. We also have, the board has a function, right? So a lot of our things that we do district-wide are under that function. So there's lots of different ways. They were all in the packet last month, so I didn't rerun them again in that way. But I have no problem, what else is important for me to know and how you want them to run is how many years do you want to compare? How much detail do you want on them? I mean, there are thousands of accounts, but I don't think you want that kind of detail because it'd be 300 pages long. So a lot of what you see is rolled up in just summary type accounts.
I guess I have a question for the 4 board members that have done this multiple times. Is there anything that you would like to see that you didn't get to see in the way it was presented last year from Jill?
I mean, one of the things I like from last month is I'm finding it here, is the comparison, expenditure by location comparison, just because that gives me a little bit of year over year. So if no one else has any opinions.
I actually would agree with you on that.
Because unless you look at this stuff as much as Jill does, I don't have a gut feel on what a number should look like, but at least the comparison, even though things are change, right, but you can see that there's a significant change.
And that's year-to-year spend, not necessarily budgetary.
It's
Just through the budget.
And that's under the summary by location,
So.
like it's part of it.
you go back to last one.
Let's go back to last one.
Yeah, if Jill wants to pull it up. The other thing I like is it's only 10 pages.
Yeah.
So it's not 195 pages or whatever some of those are, which gets
Well,
to be
and,
quite
and I wanna make sure everybody understands, so you get.
you still get expenditures.
You're gonna get expenditures, which is the check summaries, and those are the very thick report that you get, and that is the detail of every check cut.
And they're required to approve those.
And you're
Just to be clear,
required to
like,
approve.
you're not required to read all of them, but you are required to approve all those checks.
It is best practice for me to also give you financial reports, right? So you get what we've collected in revenues and what we've, done in expenditures for a month. They're not financial statements, of course, at this point, but at least it gives you an idea of what revenue and expense looks like for the month and how it compares year to date compared to last year and the year prior.
And that's what I think is most valuable, because I look through the expenditures, but I don't look at our budget nearly as often as you, so I don't have a gut feel for what, I know if a check seems really big, like, that seems like a lot of paper,
What's it amount to? Yeah.
Right.
And I would always offer, if you see something in those check summaries that you have a question on, please call me or email me before the board meeting, where I have access to everything and I can look it up, because I see a lot of numbers I can't always remember at the board table on what all those 100-some pages of checks are, so.
It was 195 last month.
Okay.
I would make a motion to go with what we saw. I think Brad's spot on, that's what I've always seen in other reporting practices, so I'd make a motion to stick with that if that's okay with you, Jill.
Yes.
And she's hitting print on a report.
And you were getting that last year? Or
No,
that's a
we did
new
not.
format that
That's
you'd
a
like to see for
different
this year?
format. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that format.
I do too.
Good.
Nick, you're our treasurer.
Send it. Yeah, it's nice to compare year to year, I guess.
You able to add any color at all, Joe?
Color?
So like reds and blacks, negative, positive? Well.
It's a Skyward printout, yeah.
Yeah, only if I dumped it into an Excel.
No, don't be
Yeah.
great, it's fine.
Yeah.
I
asked the same thing a couple
question.
years ago.
It's
Could
okay.
we get this in pretty graphs instead? It's easier to read.
Be happy to do graphs if you'd like graphs as well. I think this is the one you were talking about.
Yes, that looks like
There's a lot of numbers on the page, but 22-23 budget, which we don't have to have there, right? We could just have the activity. That's,
I like the budget.
Well, it's good to know
Okay.
what you're up against.
He gives
how
us
far
the
you are.
fiscal year to date.
Yep.
it's fiscal year to date.
And then you can see
Everybody
if
knows
there's
what
any
that
changes to
means,
the-
right?
right.
It's gonna change every month. It's accumulating.
I think everyone knows we're in a July 1 fiscal year, right?
Encumbered means our purchase orders that we have out there, reserving the funds for expense, and unencumbered, this last column is it's the budget minus the year-to-date activity and the encumbrances for purchase orders, so that's what's left in our current year budget to spend on those things.
How is, as a group, like how much have you guys looked at budgets in your lifetime and managed through a budget? And I'm not talking like your home checkbook.
No, I did.
You did? Okay, alright, so what Jill's talking, everybody understands like what each column represents, or would it be helpful if she gave you just a quick cheat sheet of, hey, this is what this really means? Or is everybody registering, like if this sheet came in front of you, like?
And then we could come ask you.
Absolutely, and I could give you a cheat sheet of what the locations are too, right?
That
That
would be
might be
You
nice.
see-
That might be nice.
You see part of the description here, because we have so many columns, that's part of the
Right.
problem too, so.
I think it was confusing last year for us because we're looking at the account and where the fund came from, not knowing what those numbers meant.
Sure.
And that was you did clarify that for me.
So this is the winner, is that what I'm hearing?
That's the year.
I'll make a motion, I'd like this one.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have a new budget report format. All right, now we're gonna jump back to proposed budget.
It'll be in that format already.
It's like that AI encouraging.
Yeah.
With that magic.
When you say
Yeah, that
something and
last
your
one.
social media gives you a commercial for it.
Which is terrifying.
Saves me thinking about what I want though. It just tells me what I want.
All right, so you had a lot of information. Oh, this is the wrong one. Else I just didn't change the title.
You got the right
Got the
one.
wrong year.
No, you got
I've
the
got
right
last
one in the
month's.
folder. You're in the wrong.
Yep. Hold on a second.
Yeah, you're digging around.
I'm in the
reports
wrong
and last
folder.
month. Yep.
That's right, sorry.
9.2.
It's gonna hail in my house, it always hails.
We've had a lot of moisture lately.
There was no damage on my roof.
I have 2 calves that just are little lamb.
All right, this is looking better. All right, 24-25 budget. You received a lot of information. I tried to give you all of the funds. So from our main operating fund, Fund 10, through Fund 80, Fund 96, all of them. Each has its own special purpose and we're required to use them in that way from the state accounting. So, but I'm focusing on in this budget development discussion tonight is Fund 10 though. That's where most of our budget lies. So again, just talking about, I feel a little bit bad for the new board members because you're coming in on the tail end of the budget cycle. Many things have been approved throughout the year for the budget. We will not know all of our final things that we need to know until October. So even though July 1st is the start of our fiscal year, we don't have all the factors we need to really do a good calculation on how much revenue we're gonna have for the budget 4 months after the fiscal year starts. So this is a budget and this is our preliminary budget. It will change again in October once we know more values for state aid, for our property values for the levy. Again, our student numbers, which drive our revenue limit and a lot of our funding. We have the final budget and tax levy approval at the meeting, for the board meeting in October, and then the annual meeting the 4th Monday in October as well. So things are gonna change is what I'm saying. This is the preliminary budget, the original budget that we start with. We used all the factors that we have had the board approve throughout the process. The 4% salary pool increase, the 3% in our health insurance premiums. We increased the building budget allocations. We had to eliminate a lot of ESSER positions, but we did add some of those floating subs back into the Fund 10 budget. We did have addition of a 4th grade teacher and we had reduction of 5 teachers, mostly through attrition for elementary, high school, and special education. We also reduced 2 aides through the budget process. And the retiree HRA decrease is just numbers. We had more retirees a few years ago that are falling, those payments are falling off. And so that amount is going down. The revenue budget, we have a balanced budget for revenue and expense. The far right column is a 24-25 budget at $23,917,639. You can see it's quite a bit less than the current year of $25 million, and that's mostly because of ESSER funds. We will have some ESSER funds just for a few months into next budget cycle, but most of those will be spent by September 30th. So those are the big numbers. Property tax is going down a little, and again, these are all estimated because we don't know the final numbers. But I'm estimating that our property tax levy for Fund 10 will go down a little bit. Our equalization aid should go up a little bit based on our expenditures from this year. State aid for AGR, our SAGE numbers should go down just a little bit because we're having less students at that KN1 level. And then some of those other things aren't changing a lot except federal revenue going from 3.2 million to 1.5. That's where the ESSER funds come into play.
How long are those available?
3 years for most of them, but one was earlier and then there was some overlap and they came in 2 large installments, so.
Yep. And then the expenditure budget, these are just roll up into salary and benefits are at the top of the screen. You can see there's a little bit of difference there. Again, that's where we put most of our ESSER funds. So the salary and benefits are going down a little bit for this year because of the loss of ESSER funding. Open enrollment, is budgeted to be the same. We don't know open enrollment numbers until actually in June at the end of next fiscal year. So we have to just estimate how many kids we think they're going to be that are leaving us and how much we're going to get, how much is attached to each pupil that's leaving us. We don't know that until June as well. So it's, again, it's a budget. And then our transfer to Fund 27 is staying about the same. Fund 27 is where our special education funds are housed. So anything that's not covered by a state aid or a federal entitlement has to come from our Fund 10. So our operating fund has to transfer just over $3 million for special education funding.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second there? So when you hear about the biennium budget and you hear people doing advocacy for what could change in the biennium state budget to help support schools, that special ed piece is a really important piece to talk about because that $3 million, I've said this before, but it's messy, complicated sometimes. Fund 10 is super flexible. We get to use it for all of the different things, right? Most of our expenses come out of Fund 10. We have to take $3 million from the super flexible account and put it into special ed programming because all of the funding we receive for special ed programming doesn't cut it. It leaves us $3 million short. So when you hear advocacy around the state budget, I am a very strong advocate for increasing the reimbursement for special education. The state started by saying 2/3, they were going to reimburse 2/3 of every dollar. And up until recently, we've gotten 22 cents on a dollar, 24 cents on a dollar. We're up to 29 or 30?
30.
We're up to 30 cents, 31 cents on a dollar. They promised 2/3 funding. So if the state increases the reimbursement around special ed, we can use our Fund 10 dollars in the flexible account and not have to transfer so many of them over into special ed. So I just want to reiterate that because as legislature gears up for the biennium budget conversation again, that's going to be a hot topic. And I think if the legislatures want to do something that's going to help all schools, every single school has special ed students. And most schools have to transfer some of that money. So some people would rather they give more to transportation, give more to this, or give more to that. I think special ed is one that every single district would benefit from. So just my little sidebar narrative when it comes to advocacy.
What kind of things fall under voucher? Just, I know it's small amount, but just.
Yeah, so the voucher, that is the private school vouchers. We don't even know, we talked a little bit about this, I don't know if you were here or not yet. Talking about private school students, we have kids that attend private school, our money goes to those private schools. We do get an exemption on our revenue limit to help counteract that cost. I don't even know which students, what grade level or anything like that.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
We were saying that's our frustration. So open enrollment, all those people have to apply so we know who they are, what grade they are. We can call and ask them what happened, that they're choosing to leave, like all of that. The voucher students, we don't get to know who they are. So we can't even ask them, like, is there anything we can do to meet your educational needs here? So it's just kind of unfortunate that we don't even get to know who they are. So they live in our attendance area, but we don't get to ever have a conversation with them about it.
And honestly, a couple years ago, it caught me off guard because I had no idea. We went from like 8,000, and the next year it might have been 50, and then 2 years ago it was 112,000. So it's been growing, and okay, how much is that going to grow? I mean, those are real dollars out that we can't use for something else in the district. So.
Okay.
Oops. Tax levy history, just like to show where we've been and where we're estimated to be for this year. So the levy's been fairly flat. If anything, it's dropping slightly from last year. I'm estimating that again. It just depends where our revenue limit ends up and what our property values end up being and what our state aid ends up being. Those all contribute to what our tax levy is going to look like. The one difference this year, or for next year, is that we added the non-referendum debt levy, that $124,924, and that is for the pool project at the middle school. So that comes out of our Fund 10 revenue limit, or I'm sorry, tax levy dollars. It is now in Fund 38 for a specific purpose for the pool, paying back the monies we borrowed for the pool project. So, and that's a 10-year note. Just again, looking at the tax levy detail and kind of breaking it up between the general fund levy is the blue, the referendum approved debt is the gray, and then community service is a little slice of yellow, which you can't even see because it's so small compared to the rest of the levy. We levy $20,000 approximately in Fund 80. That is for our activities director salary, and we've been levying for a community ed director piece in there as well, $10,000. And then again, the primary portion of it is the general fund. The small orange sliver is our new non-referendum debt, or Fund 38 debt payment. Oh, sorry, I keep scrolling too fast. Just a look at our equalized property value and tax rate over the last couple of years. We had a big boon in property values in 22-23 over the prior year, about 11%. Last year, again, another 13%. I'm always conservative with this number, and if it's higher, that means our tax rate is going to be even that much lower. So with that number up above, looking at a tax rate decrease going down to $6.21 per $1,000 of property value from the $6.30 that it was this year. So if this property equalized value goes up, this tax rate will go down even further. Again, it depends what their aid is, so there's all those factors that we have to wait till October for. On the tax rate history, we were at 898 for several years, and that was on purpose. We were levying a rate, and then the past few years it has dropped significantly. I wanted to note that Fund 39 includes $300,000 for a defeasance, and that is basically for an additional principal payment to pay down our debt more quickly. And we can save interest expense by doing that. It also allows us a little bit of a strategy so that if our aid comes in higher, we could manage the levy. If it comes in lower, we can manage the levy by not doing that defeasance. We've used that before in helping to balance out, so we're not seeing our levy and our tax rate going like this every year. It's kind of a little bit of a strategy that we can minimize this amount that we levy, because that is a choice. We have a certain amount of debt that we have, debt payments that we have to levy for. The defeasance is kind of that extra amount that we've been levying. The capital maintenance trust, I just want to know that currently has $48,000 in it. We were up to several $100,000, but we've been using it for things like roofs, flooring at 4th Street for the additional part that wasn't part of the referendum. So we've been dipping into that. We had to do some asbestos abatement at 4th Street that was not part of the referendum project, so we dipped into that fund for that as well. Fund 46 is, as it says, the capital maintenance trust, and we can use it for capital maintenance kinds of things. At the end of the year, it would be ideal. In the past, we put money in there. We've been unable to do that the last couple of years due to other expenses, but that is the goal.
So that's kind of unspent monies from prior years is now a surplus.
Correct, and we get,
Based on what the budget was initially for capital.
and we get aid on it from the state, so
Okay.
And wait, what, you said what?
we get state aid on it as well.
And so I think it's important to note, if at the end of the year there's funds left and we put it into our fund balance, we don't get aided on that money, but yet our fund balance, we have board policies that says our fund balance will be 21% of our annual operating costs. But when we dump money into fund balance, we don't get aid as if we spent it. When we put it into our capital maintenance trust, we get aided as if we spent it. So it's an incentive to plan for the future in capital maintenance and not try to grow this fund balance that,
Or purchase a bus.
or purchase a bus is where
We
we're
get
headed with
aided
our
on
end of year
those,
money
too.
this year, yes.
We do get aided on buses?
Any expenditures.
Any expenditure.
Yeah, it's when we put it into that savings account fund balance, they don't look at it as an expenditure.
Okay.
When we put it into capital maintenance, because the only thing we can spend it on is capital maintenance, they look at that as an
Right.
expenditure, because when you take it out, you know that it will be a expenditure, so.
Awesome.
Fund 49 has about $500,000 left in it for the pool and HVAC systems. We've talked about that recently. Fund 50 is our nutrition services plan fund, and the plan is for free breakfast and free lunch again for all students for 24-25. So Shelley just signed the form today, actually. Fund 80 is our community service fund. Again, that is for community type activities. We are able to levy a small amount for our activities director because he does a lot of work with the youth groups and scheduling of our gyms for the community, for everyone.
Does his aid also come out of that then too?
Does what?
He has another part-time person that works for him?
No,
No.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Nope, that's out of Fund 10, the
Okay.
person that would help him. Yep. So that's really the 30,000 foot view. I gave you a lot of detail in the other reports. Again, this is all estimates at this time. We'll finalize it in October, and the good news is revenues and expenditures balanced right now.
Yeah.
So.
It's such a messy system that July 1, we start living off of this budget and we don't know our final numbers till the end of October. Like, that is messy, messy school finance,
It's
so.
like hedging.
But,
It's almost like hedging.
yeah. Jill said she crystal balls some of the budget stuff in the
Third
spring.
of the year's gone and now we know how much we have, okay.
Right.
Any questions on any of the information?
Thank you for putting it together.
And so everyone knows the process. This is the big picture stuff has to be printed in the newspaper as well. And so that will happen usually July, right, Jill? Or do
Well,
they
we
till
have to do
August?
it within 10 days of the board
Oh.
approving it.
So it's gonna happen in 10
Yeah.
days. And then again, it is printed again once it becomes final, just so everyone knows, once that October meeting happens and it's all finalized. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but for sure, we're buying one bus. The board approved the purchase of one bus. We are really close to thinking we can get a second one out of the end of year funds.
We have a special education, a smaller bus, wheelchair lift kind of bus that we're not sure will pass inspection. And it's, do we spend 30-some thousand or 40,000 to fix that up, or do we look at purchasing another bus for 90,000?
30%, how old is it?
They're probably almost all 10 years old. Yeah.
When you look at CapEx depreciation, you get certain rates based on the type of spends, I'm sure, right?
Right.
Depreciation rates. Okay.
Yep.
Do you ever share like how much overhead like the school is depreciating, like how much?
Only in our
financials.
in our financial statements at the end of the year.
Okay.
We honestly don't really deal with the depreciation throughout the whole year. It's more for footnotes and things in our formal financial statements at the end of the year.
Okay, so you just take it once a year,
Yep.
basically, then rather
Yes.
than a monthly thing or anything
Yep.
like that.
We
So-
capture our assets at the end of the year and then depreciate new.
Because we're
so-
non-tax entity.
Sure, I'm
Right,
just
there's no-
curious, like
yeah.
when we'd see it or how you'd see it and how much is still out there, what's been invested, what's still left to appreciate.
So that goes on the annual report?
So,
It's on the annual financial statements, which we usually get from the auditors in December, January. Yep.
Okay.
For the prior year.
We get a letter, it says how nice of a job Jill does every year, that's why she likes to talk about it.
Yeah, right.
what's next with this then?
So we do need to approve this.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, on to 9.5, our Fund 80 childcare discussions.
So I just want to lay this out for everybody so we all understand the timeline that we're working around. So if the board is interested in using Fund 80 Community Service Levy for some of the approved expenditures under the DPI guidance that I linked for you, that would happen at that annual meeting, the fourth Monday in October is when that would officially happen. What we would like to know, and by we, I mean the admin team, is if the board is, so I should back up. At the annual meeting, it is a meeting of the electorate. That means that the board opens the meeting and then they elect a chairman that may or may not be a board member or it may be somebody from the community. And there's some very odd resolutions that per state statute you must address each year, like we will provide meals for students, and it's kind of weird stuff. But you also approve the budget, and that includes the Fund 80 levy. As the electorate, so everybody who's there, they all get a vote and they get to share their thoughts and input. Then immediately after that meeting, there's a Board of Education meeting where the elected officials take action and make a decision on the budget. That meeting of the electorate is information only, it is not binding. So even if there's, I'm just gonna be hypothetical, there's 1,000 people that vote no and you 7 wanna say yes, you can do that. I wouldn't advise it, but you can do that, right? You 7 are still the elected officials that get to make the decision afterwards, okay? So that's what the power of that annual meeting is. It is not binding, it is information only, okay? So if this board is interested in moving forward with a school-sponsored, when I say sponsored, it's not really the word school-run daycare, because when I say sponsored, it feels like we're gonna pay for it for everybody, and that is not what we're suggesting. We are suggesting very clearly that the Gebhardt building be used to provide community daycare. Yes, our staff members would also be able to use it, and community members would be able to use it. If it's out of Fund 80, it has to be open for community people as well. I feel like we've had a lot of conversation around it. Previously, a majority of the board members said, yep, we should keep talking about it. And I'm here to say that I would love to see our district do that. We've talked before about how many of our neighbors are already in that ballgame, and our open enrollment numbers continue to show us that people are appreciative of that. And we can't wait until the fourth Monday in October to get permission to move forward with that. If we wanted to open January 1st, as we had previously talked a little bit. And so we can't spend any money until January 1st, because that is when we would start levying for those funds. But if the board were interested in taking action before the fourth Monday in October, we wouldn't spend any money, but we could start finalizing plans, we could start nailing things down so that after that annual meeting, the fourth Monday in October, we could move that much faster. So I'm wanting some direction from the group of elected officials as to whether you are ready to take action on that, whether what information you need if you don't already have it. What would you have us do in order to know what your beliefs are around the district moving forward in this?
What age groups would it serve?
So it would be open to childcare for all age groups. It could be surround care for school age kids. It would also be younger kids. Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm very in this one. I'm not sure how that exactly plays into this. So
Yeah, what is this?
Well,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
More words. More words.
so
One of those things that
I've done a ton ton of research and worked very closely with the district to pull surveys and to gather real concrete data as to where our community sits with this issue. And so we've surveyed, like I said, parents at all 4 school districts in Jackson County, as well as business and employees at some of our local larger employers, to try and get an understanding of where they fall. In doing that, was able to also kind of assist and volunteer in helping with the collective impact that started to have conversations about not just childcare in the school districts, which has been a beautiful addition in some of our other county school districts, but also other solutions that the community can look at in terms of bridging the gap, because we're about 1,000 slots short, and it's contributing to incoming kindergartners not having the early childhood development that they need initially to be successful. But if you really look at the return on investment, you're looking at we're taking about a $2.5 million hit annually in the county because of inadequate and unavailable childcare. So there's so many different spaces where you would see a return that just based on the data that we've pulled and the conversations that have been had. So having been part of some of those things, I can speak pretty well to it, but I also, I'm not sure how that is. That's a conflict of interest. I should probably.
So what could
If you're
happen?
receiving a check from the district for this, that would be a conflict of interest. So being aware of the issue is not a conflict.
Yeah, I guess the more you can enlighten us about
And so what it could turn into is if there is a committee that is formed to further investigate this, it would make sense that you would be the board representative on that committee, which happens in other topics, other areas.
I'm fine with that. I just wanted to be transparent about the participation I've had.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a business professional this morning who overwhelmingly said you absolutely must do this for this community. And he was speaking on behalf of several other professionals in the area that this is a huge shortfall. Every business I've talked to has said they have troubles recruiting, and the 2 reasons they cite are housing and childcare.
And we, as the district, one of the larger employers in our community, would wholeheartedly agree. We have teachers that resign every year because, in fact, we just lost somebody because they have to drive 45 minutes for childcare, so.
And I'd be happy to share the data. I have some beautiful parent feedback that there was one that brought me to tears, because you could tell that they genuinely were trying everything in their power to just hold their families together, but they were sending their kids to their grandparents 5 days a week because they didn't have local childcare here. So the data is very moving, but the feedback from parents alone wasn't really. It became much more apparent that our community's survival depends on it, because we don't have the attrition. It's a conundrum. I can just send you guys the research. You guys can look at it on your own time. Have questions. Feel free to there's contact information on that for people other than myself that you can feel free to reach out to. But it's impacting the district in so many ways that it makes sense.
Why don't you send that to Dr. Severson, and we can put that in next month's board packet then?
Yes, that's fine.
I can put it on as a
future.
So who runs the child care
we
center?
would hire a director.
Gotcha.
Do we have initial, I know it's very early to ask for numbers, but number of seats this would be and total cost?
Do not yet. I mean, I have from another district kind of what they're doing, but
So what I think would be helpful is for you to see what the impact would be on Fund 80. And we've talked before that other districts that have done it, there's a larger amount in the beginning and then it steps down. And why I think it's relevant to talk about tonight, Jill just talked about that defeasance and how we try to control the levy a little bit so it's not like this. We can adjust how much is used for defeasance and how much is used for Fund 80, that even if we decide to do this, it does not mean that every taxpayer is going to have the levy go up for them. Like there's room in there because our numbers are gonna let the levy drop if we do nothing. If we choose to do a defeasance to pay off our debt early, and we choose to do a Fund 80 to help solve the child care crisis, the levy will still go down from where it is. So a taxpayer sees levy go down, more services provided. I just want to be really clear about that. That's what the power of that defeasance gives us, is the opportunity to use that Fund 80 for other items than just letting the mill rate keep moving wherever the 3 factors let it go.
So would the goal be to like break even with it?
Absolutely,
Or
yes.
maybe rubber, you know?
That'd be great, but yes. The goal would definitely be to break even. If you've followed many of the childcare centers, that's a tough thing to do. The business model itself relies a lot on people, and that is paying a living wage is really hard for most childcare centers. So the district has the advantage of, we have a lot of staff that work like 6.75 hours. We have staff that work for us during the school year and then have summers off. And while some love summers off, some would love the opportunity to earn more so they could transition into the childcare center during the summer as the need for childcare would grow because kids aren't in school anymore. So being a large employer gives us opportunities that other people trying to start standalone childcare centers don't have.
There also is a different ratio for
Flex with
school.
the seasonality.
Correct.
That-
Other people can't.
And
Yep.
local businesses, if they tried to do it, they wouldn't be able to staff it.
When
That
kids
was-
are more free, so are our staff.
Yep.
There's also a different ratio applied to the school districts that isn't graced with other facilities in home care. So they have a higher capacity.
Because they think we're in the child business already, and so all of the rules and regulations, which is what cripples many people trying to start
That's
childcare
why,
centers.
People that do a really good job with it quit doing it. It's the rules and regulations.
Yes,
That-
absolutely.
And business.
And we still have to follow the rules and regulations, they're just different for school districts than private centers.
And the business acumen side of it is where, like, a lot of people are really, really good at childcare, and you get into childcare because you're really, really good at childcare, but business acumen can be a little bit more of a struggle, and we've got a couple centers here that are blessed to have really great, like, people able to, like, pull that, but oftentimes it's a struggle for smaller entities.
Michaela, let's say if we didn't have this gay part school, it doesn't exist. So we were supposed to build another place for daycare, or we just happen to have something, we are using it.
Oh, I don't make those decisions, I'm just telling you the data that I have, so that you can then in part make the
Yes.
decisions about how you guys wanna move places, do things, buildings, that's not any my, that's not
It'd be
my.
So let's say this school never existed.
So
So we were to build another establishment.
So Blair Taylor School District did a community-wide referendum to add a childcare center onto their school, and their community said yes. So there are communities all over that do different things. Some try to find other abandoned buildings that they can renovate in their communities. Some
But we already have it.
that's what I'm saying. It's already there.
Yeah,
And we are intentionally moving all of our high school students out, so it will be free of all student programming by next
So
fall.
we don't have to build a special
We do
building.
not.
Right.
So luckily we have. Now the second question is, who will pay the bill of heating in winter?
So all of those costs would be factored into the daycare costs.
Fund 80 will pay for it.
No, the childcare will be run as a business, essentially.
So initially, we will use Fund 80 to help supplement, right, until we can stand on our own 2 feet. But initially, Fund 80 will help, but all of those costs would be factored into the business model and how much we charge families and all of that stuff.
Will it be hard on the Amish family? They use no district resource. In fact, very community resources and provide vegetables and food to our community. Higher property taxes create more hardship for those families? I don't think. Do you think?
Well, any property tax is a hardship for, depending on who you
I'm
are.
talking about Amish people, and they are kind of our neighbors.
For sure, they're very much our neighbors.
In our community, yeah.
Yeah.
So we are punishing them. They hardly use
I would
our
never
levy.
use language like that. I would tell you that if we allow the levy to drop some, but use some of that room for Fund 80, they're still gonna get some property tax relief, right? It'll still be a little bit better, just wouldn't drop all the way.
Okay.
I'm not punishing anyone.
No, it's not you, it is we will make final decision. I'm just, this is not my voice, this is constituent talking about. The people are talking about. So many concerns they have. About Amish community, they are worried about Amish community, they should not suffer.
Okay.
Since they don't use child care center or any other establishment. So, we'll
But they choose
consider Amish community too.
They choose to build the
But this will help
property in this district, so
our
that's their choice.
Ho-Chunk population and the non-Ho-Chunk population by providing childcare, letting people get to work, stay at work.
Yeah.
It will support our teachers and staff, letting them be more available to us. And that all leads to your end goal of changing the data on education.
Oh, that is the purpose? I am in it for
Well,
it.
that is the purpose.
That cannot be a purpose.
it
Child care center don't improve this.
That
thing.
is so wrong.
It actually does, and
Yes.
Michaela has
No, it
studied
doesn't.
it
This
extensively.
is 25 years ago. Brett Dobb says this is 25 years. This practice is very much
But there have
habit
been-
of the people.
Yeah, there's
We've been short on daycare slots for 25 years.
There's also been students failing since the dawn of time, so it's not just 25 years. And Michaela has extensively studied the need for childcare in Jackson County and providing more childcare. Like she just said, you want all these teachers, one just quit because she doesn't have childcare.
Okay, second question,
That'd be your third question.
which I don't have. Constituent are sending me this.
Yeah, tell me what she said.
Who she?
Whoever wrote that for you.
Just a good guess.
I don't want to disclose the topic.
I just
here.
assumed it was a woman. Go ahead.
Okay.
Very caring.
Don't we have enough childcare spot in community?
We do not.
No.
We
That's
are-
the easy one.
We are
in
That's the easy one, right?
To the T, we're at
Definitely not.
284 slots, we need about 1,100 more. That's
So
where
we
we're at.
actually don't
In the
have
county,
it.
in the whole county.
Yes.
Can you
So not
enlighten?
So that is a good excuse to establish.
It's not any
an
kind of
excuse,
excuse.
It's a
just-
rationale for why.
It's a
we
good
should-
rationale
just the
to
numbers.
establish use our one of unused building.
It's
Would
not
you
an
mind
excuse, it's
enlightening
just the numbers. The
Just
numbers
data.
is we have 284 slots, give
So-
or take 3. We need about 1,100 in the county, not just our district, so in the county. Because I surveyed the entire county.
So behind
Every
the scenes, a lot of
in every
people may
district,
not be
there's all
aware.
kinds of
Michaela, a lot of people probably aren't aware, and obviously Iftikhar isn't, and his constituents as well, may not be aware that for months, if not longer, how long are we talking? We've had the coalition, the groups.
Years.
Well, but I mean,
2018.
the childcare.
The Child Care Network's been around since 2018. We have, the group has been working on this extensively, trying to fix it, because businesses are losing money. Like,
Yes,
an
yes.
extensive amount of money. And so there was like, hey, we can't hire people, and the school district is one of them. I think what would be a good idea is for me to just send you the data,
Yeah,
and then you guys can look at it, because it's all in there. Everything you like wanna understand and know about, like how parents feel, how employers feel, how childcare staff feels, like it's all in there. We did the whole gamut.
This
So-
is for discussion. No action is needed. If you read Dr. Shelley Severson notes, it's just for discussion. When I'm talking about my constituent, automatically your constituent too. Every citizen is your constituent,
Yes.
to whether they voted you or not.
Yeah, that's why I answered your
So
questions.
That's
please
just
do
a-
not insult any constituent.
Sure.
Is there a, approximate capacity of how many children can be in kindergarten?
No, that's what Brad had asked, and we would need to do some, so it,
Up to 100?
we're not lazy, but we wanna know how realistic we are about moving forward before we dig in too deep, is what I'm saying.
Do you know how many square feet it is? I feel like I've done the numbers before.
I don't, not off, I wasn't prepared for that.
Okay.
So how about next month, we talk about all that, and we will have all that stuff ready.
I think what's worth defining right now, though, as a group, is whether we need 7 of us to be part of these discussions, or we could create a subcommittee to do some investigation and to come forward with a recommendation to the rest of the group.
Yeah, Mikhail, if you're
So,
willing to serve on that subcommittee,
Yeah, I
I
can do
would
that.
agree.
Yeah, I can do that.
Make a subcommittee.
Right.
oh yeah,
Who's gonna be
yeah,
on
I
it?
mean, I'm just curious, like,
So
what is everybody's in on this one? Do you all wanna be part of the discussions from everything we're gonna see from here on up, or?
So
Should we make a subcommittee?
So the other thing is, by making a subcommittee, we are saying as a board, we are very interested in pursuing this. This is not an approval of doing this, right, because we don't have a budget or any of that stuff yet. But one of the things that Dr. Severson wants to get tonight is a very good take on where we stand, because she doesn't want her and Jill and many other district folks, right, Kent's gonna have to go over there with his tape measure and spend some quality time, I'm sure. If we,
Yeah, I would think that's.
I don't trust them. I laid out way too many buildings.
Okay.
They're
But,
little laser things to measure with.
Okay, measuring the rooms is not a problem, folks, trust me.
They're gonna have to budget for, right, furnitures, fixtures and equipment and all that
Yeah,
kind of stuff, right? So,
Playground, yeah.
yep. So,
I support the exploration of it further.
That's
Yeah,
what I need to get.
I also do, absolutely.
yep, as do I.
Okay.
Nick?
You assume yes.
Yeah, I feel there's a need for it. I'm not always in favor of the school doing it, but there's such a demand for it. It's kind of like slapping us in the face.
Well, and
It's not us, then who?
Right, and that's,
And you know, if we can balance, you know, make it at least break even within like the first 3 to 5 years, you know?
3 years is normal for the other districts that have done it.
And I mean, you're not really necessarily taking away from the public sector or private sector, I mean. There's a demand for it, there's a lot of positives.
I mean, I wish someone else was doing it and we wouldn't have to, you know, but no one else is, so.
Nobody else just has a building.
We have a building. I do see an issue with the highway, people driving in there, it's just not gonna work.
Nope, absolutely, we'll figure it out. They know that we're having conversations. So that's the other part of advance notice, right? We don't want to pull the rug out from under them, because there's 4 separate food programs working out of that building, so they need ample notice to change their procedures or figure out what has to happen, so.
It'd have to be after hours
Yeah,
or
we'll figure it out.
somewhere else.
Casey, are you in favor of exploring it further?
Absolutely.
Jeanette,
Sure.
Iftikhar?
Exploring about Fund 80?
Just
Daycare?
exploring it further. Michaela's gonna get the data to you or everybody else that
She is going to give data to Sherry Severson, as Brett Dobb says, and then she will interpret on the screen, so all people could watch.
I can.
This is the whole purpose.
Send it to me.
Yeah, I'll send it to you, but we can get it in our board package, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Just wanna make sure.
Yeah, and then we will have such a nice, sweet notes. Who would do that for us? We're not that intelligent people, only she is. Why, you doubt on yourself now?
I can't tell if that's sarcasm
No.
or what it is.
No,
So we'll just move on.
why do you think you is sarcastic?
We're moving on.
Because I think I would be able to interpret the data.
I'm
feel good at all.
No.
Did not feel good at all.
Alright,
No.
Alright,
we're going on to the 10th, eh?
yep, exactly. So
So
I,
we're
that
moving
is the
for
end.
notes, we're
Well, we
approving
didn't-
to move forward.
Do we need a formal
You
vote
do
on it?
not. I feel very confident moving forward. Thank you.
Yes.
Alright.
Yeah, I interpret that as not desiring at this time a formal vote. All right, 10.1, meeting minutes from May. Again, those were in your packet. Looking for approval on those.
I'll motion an approval.
I will second that.
Thank you.
Further discussion?
No discussion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nobody opposed.
All right, district admin report?
I have just a few things. First of all, middle school pool, we dodged a bullet there. It was not good. Upper 90 has been a partner of ours for several projects, and they have gone fantastically well. We've gotten the energy savings. All those things have worked out fantastically. In this instance, they failed to file a construction plan with the state. And I'm not sure why, if they didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. I really have no idea. And they are crystal clear how disappointed we were in all of this. So our Jackson County inspector went over and said, there's no plan, your pool is shut down. We received notice that our pool was shut down. Upper 90 also knew that. They continued to call. I actually have sent the inspector flowers because I think they were calling her like daily and they were being upset with her. And I kept telling them, you don't get to be mad at the Jackson County person. She's doing her job. You failed to do your job. As of Friday at 10 a.m., our pool was approved to start teaching lessons today. It was down to that last little bit. So I met with all the swim team teachers, not swim team, swim lesson instructors right after school got out, and they're like, okay, are we gonna delay? What is gonna happen? We were going to cancel if that's what we had to do. We moved the swim lifeguard training. That's supposed to be the week right after school, and the pool was closed that whole week. We moved that to later in the summer, and lessons started today without incident. The whole problem, what we ended up doing, because the state apparently when they do get a plan submitted, they set a date for when they're going to evaluate it. Our plan is going to be reviewed on July 15th. Sure. July 15th is too late for most of our swim lessons, and our pool was closed. So what they allowed us to do was take off all of the pieces of new equipment that had been put on. They literally moved them across the hall and tucked them in another room and put all of our old components back on the pool. And then the inspector came and re-inspected it, and we were allowed to open. So I just wanted you to know, at the same time you were reading all of our social media that the Huffman pool was closed, ours was also in jeopardy. It was not because we were losing water. There was nothing wrong. They failed to file the report, and so we could not pass an inspection when they didn't know what that report was supposed to say. So if you heard rumblings, that's where it is. Questions about that?
Like next steps?
So July 15th, they reviewed the plan, and they even said, we fully expect that, because we had a group call with the people from the state and Jackson County inspector, and the state guy says, we don't have authority to shut pools down. That's not what we do. We're telling you we don't have an approved plan, but we're not shutting down the pool. And Jackson County said, well, what do we, why, right, so all of that. They think the plan will be approved July 15th. They think it'll take a day or two to do the work and put all the new stuff, put it back how it was, and then we move on with play. So that will all happen.
Likely won't interrupt the fall swim season.
Definitely, that they are very clear what our pool needs timeline is, and they have, I really appreciate Jackson County Public Health working with us on that. They put in a lot of extra hours in meetings, and we're being harassed about that, so unfortunate. I just really feel like I need to respond for just a touch about the achievement, and I so do not want to re-engage in this conversation, but I just don't know if I haven't said it often enough. When we don't highlight the number of students who aren't being successful, it is not because we don't acknowledge that some kids aren't where we need them to be. It is because if all we're going to talk about are those kids that are failing, why do any of our staff show up the next day? This group hasn't collectively talked about the amazing growth that happens in the course of a year. That conversation was skipped entirely. Nobody could look at those teachers back there and say, good Lord, look at how many kids you grew this year. They didn't get to hear any of that. Instead, they heard words like crappy. They heard words like failure. They heard words like, we're at the bottom. We're not satisfied with where that data is, but good Lord, it is moving in the right direction, and there is so much work being done, and it is so hard for staff to continuously hear about the kids back here, and we never get to celebrate or talk about anything else. That is exhausting, frustrating, disheartening, disrespectful. I could go on and on and on. We can talk about those kids in the red, but could we acknowledge that we are moving some kids out of the red to all kinds of different places? Can we acknowledge that we have students that are accomplishing amazing things? We're taking one test and just beating staff up with it. And it is so hard to listen to time after time. So we don't not talk about it because we don't acknowledge it. If you had any idea how hard staff work, when we were together that whole day making their action plans for next year, they are always hopeful. Because if you're not hopeful, why do you come back the next day, right? If the teachers don't have a sense of self-efficacy that they feel they can positively impact the work for those students, why do they show up the next day? Like, we have to find a way that we can talk about our student data that isn't so demeaning and demoralizing. I would ask this group to help me find a way to do that, because that whole hour was gross, and I'm disappointed that staff had to listen to it. That's all I needed to say.
That's very negative.
Thank you.
Finally, you speaking negative. So I would
Does
say
that feel good to you?
I would say for the staff, they are doing exceptionally good job. But of course, they are being abused. I am one of them.
Done.
All right. Let's 10.3 WASB or other.
Did y'all get a packet from them in the mail?
Yeah, you should.
I went to.
You get a policy update every month. Everyone should receive the annual.
I was just curious if you started, like, you got a folder with new
Yeah,
stuff in
yeah,
that? Yeah, okay. Make sure I wasn't.
Yeah.
You're on the separate list.
Yeah.
Shoot.
You're on that.
And I'm going to a conference next month, that AI
Is it
conference.
AI one?
Yeah, yeah, so I'll be there and I'll try and get everybody's like notes for
That's the one in
everyone.
Green Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna go.
I do.
You wanna come with me? It'll be a cool little learning event.
So for the new board members, or everybody, when you want to attend any of that WASB stuff, Marty is your travel concierge and is happy to register you and help you through that whole process. And I greatly appreciate when you do get out and talk to other districts, because sometimes that helps you find things to celebrate here when you hear what's happening in other districts as well. So.
All right. Any other conference or workshop attendance? It was the CISA annual meeting. I do have the slides from that. I'm behind on emails. I will forward those out. We got some interesting stuff on what the CISA is doing on mental health. Next, school board connection opportunities. We don't have a lot going on right now. We will, just so everyone is aware, there's a July meeting. In August, we have a special meeting. You guys will probably talk about that during the July meeting. We will tour the facilities, probably including make sure we hit the pool this year. Yeah, that's really the next. There's usually some stuff at the beginning of the contract year. I don't know when those dates are off the top of my head.
Can I say two things real quick, Brett? To keep it short. Dan, just wanted to say thank you for that 8th grade graduation ceremony. That was amazing. Just above and beyond what I thought that was going to be. And being honest with you with that, it was excellent. And for all the people that put into what they did for the graduation and bringing that indoors for the staff, that was awesome. Really impressed with the decision making to just pull it inside when you did and not just waiver it and have the maintenance guys running all over. So I thought that was a great ceremony. I've heard a lot of sways. You know, it's been a lot of years since they've had something indoors, and for us to do that, yeah. Darn near goes back to when Nick and I graduated, and his wife and everybody else. But anyway, really great ceremony. Thanks for what you did for the kids, and to all the staff. Thanks for a great year. And you know, we didn't really talk about the numbers and that stuff where it's at, but you can see the growth. You can see that people care. I think you got a group of 7 of us here that do care, and it's going to probably take a while before we actually function like one body, because we got a lot of strong-minded individuals here on the board. But I think that's what you got to have in order for you got to have some bumps, and you got to have some times of discussions that aren't necessarily great in order to get better. So thank you for that. Thanks for all your efforts, and congratulations on the new position.
Thanks, Casey.
Yep.
Future agenda items?
I have the childcare report.
Yes.
And I thought of the angel fund balance, just as we talk about free meals again next year. It might be interesting for you to see where that's at.
And her data to you.
I already said that, yep.
I'm gonna send out several data sets, but I'll send you each the different, you'll see, it'll be a bunch of stuff, but it'll come
And
kind of separate.
And one more future agenda that we could finalize the dates for the next committee.
Do you have an update on when you're going to meet?
When we are going to meet twice a month, thrice a month, to come up with a plan how to fix the education.
Okay.
And Nicole was supposed to give us a
For
data.
students instead of fixed education. So it is the 3 of you and myself. I can send out a doodle poll and you tell me when you're available, and then we can schedule that meeting. Well, we can have it scheduled already before we get together next month.
Anything else? All right, I will move to adjourn.
So it's
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nobody opposed. You guys go home.